matter. So the kinds of things that were going through my mind when I came here, I think I said so in my opening, when I made my opening comments on the first day, is that I don't like talk shops. I don't like it when we get together and we talk and we report on the same things. Everybody, we all know what the problems are, but we don't come up with solutions. But after these 2 days, I feel like we've touched on everything that we all know, all the things that are common, the challenges and the solutions. And now we have an opportunity to give each other authority, to be accountable and to take responsibility for what it is that we all have to do. For me, the relationship between government, me as an active citizen, you guys as lifesavers. Some people work for a living and you save lives. And that matters in South Africa. That's going to make a great South Africa. So the burning issues for me are always, the answers are in the safe house. So Fatima, we also want to thank Fatima for being a fantastic program director for these past 2 days. Can we give her a round of applause? She's not even hearing me at any rate. So the burning issues are usually the answers and the problems and the solutions are in the safe houses. So she and I have just been talking about maybe arranging a roadshow where we visit all the safe houses around the country so that we actually can see what it is that is going on there, what your challenges, I mean, we know what your challenges are, but experience them practically. It makes it easier for us to motivate and resolve. The other word for me is that, yes, you know, some people call it the breakdown when somebody loses their temper or they give us a lot of information. A lot of the time, that person is actually having the courage and the bold audacity to say what other people are feeling, experiencing, and thinking. So through those breakdowns come breakthroughs, because that's where you can look at what the points of action are and where it is that you have to actually do the work. Another word is hope. For me as an English speaker, hope is a very gentle, reserved, actionless word. So it's not a word that I like to use. But I recently had to do a presentation. There's this English guy who's developed this flower called the Clematis Indaba. And I know that Indaba means hope, but I thought, what am I going to say to him? Because I know that for me, hope's not a word. It's something that doesn't include an action. And then when I researched it and found that Indaba in Xhosa and Zulu actually is a much deeper word. There's a much deeper meaning. It's resilient. It's got motion. It's tenacious. It causes transformation. And so I am a new convert to the word hope. And I leave here very, very hopeful today and also happy that I don't have to be worried when I say hope. We also have to, I'm Christian and I'm sure we will have lots of denominations and even non-believers in the room. But at our last mass, our priest was saying that in the Bible, it doesn't say, blessed are the peacekeepers. It says, blessed are the peacemakers. And I consider us to be peacemakers because peacekeepers keep the peace. They don't deal with the things that they need to deal with. They don't say the things that are not being said. We do. And I appreciate that we've built up over 5 years the trust in this room to be able to say what we need to say without shaming, blaming, taking things personally, because we're doing it for the greater good. I'm leaving here clear that the victim and her family are the center of why we do what we do. And I have to give appreciation to so many people who use their own resources and have to go around hustling and asking for donations. I know that I hate doing that, but it's something that when you do, you will find people like us, ordinary people who will always give. So I hope that we build a bigger and better active citizenry, because the government has a lot on its hands. We've never had a government that's had to look after the whole country. So we have to work together. The progress is very slow when we have priorities. There are lots of different priorities. This is our priority. So remember that you're a peacemaker. And so that doesn't mean that it comes without conflict and without disagreement, but it means that it comes out with solutions. And then I would like to, I'm sorry, man, I just have to look at my notes. Am I giving you a break as well? Okay, so let's start our program. Today, this morning, we will be welcoming. I'm sorry, I should have brought my reading glasses as well. Our first, sorry, can I get my glasses? It's Fatima, it's in my bag. It's just the little black box that's in there. So we're having a panel discussion. That's what we're doing. So can I call to the stage Mr. Thevan Naidu, Miss Catherine Baxter, and Miss Laureen Botha. I hope I'm pronouncing your names correctly. Welcome, lifesavers, and please participate and enjoy the day. We're going to speed it up. We're going to speed it up because I think we've all managed to get what we needed from this experience. And also I wanted to say, the minister missed out last night because our gala dinner was actually a gratitude gala. I left there feeling like everybody, all of you, every day all of you show up to do what you have to do. And last night was such a fantastic opportunity to dress up and to celebrate together what it is that we want to do, our common values and our common objectives. So please enjoy the morning. Thank you. Handing over to you. Yes, we're going to arrange. Actually, we can pass that one around. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Hope you had a good breakfast and a good time. I see it's outside there. It's a bit chaotic, just getting here. But you're all very relaxed. So my name is Sean Samuels from SGS Consulting, based here in Johannesburg. And I will be moderating this panel, which focuses on the private sector giving, corporate social investment, or other, as we will sort of discuss. So I'm going to just do a little bit of an introduction, and then we will introduce the panelists, and there will be a few questions. They will each explain who they are in a bit more detail, give us a bit of background to their role, the company, and in particular, what is their sort of approach to social investment when it comes to gender-based violence? And I think also, and femicide, because I think there's a growing concern around intimate partner violence and the number of our women that are dying each day. We will pose a few questions, but at the end of this, I believe that this group, that you are very vocal and interactive. So before we end our session, we will pose a question to you. So it's not just about us having to respond, and it's not just about you asking us questions. We would like to pose a question to you. Is that fine? Okay. So I think, as you all know, so you are we're speaking here to the converted. I don't think we need to emphasize or overemphasize because this is your area of work. This is what you specialize in. But we know that the South Africa's shelters, they stand at a crossroads We know for the fact that donor funding is declining, and you've seen that with US aid. We also know that countries in the global north are significantly reducing their funds. And of course, the challenge now is what are the alternative revenue sources that we need to tap into, right? We also know that we have quite a big corporate social investment sort of spend. In 2024, it was 12.7 billion, according to Trilog, which is 1% of the large corporates have to invest 1% post-tax profit to CSI. And apart from that, one key statistic was showing us that less than 2% of those funds actually go to social justice organizations. And it'll be interesting to see or to understand if you've been receiving significant support there. So the question is, how do we then build a sustainable community of shelters that corporates may be interested in? And we will sort of try and unpack that shelters are not seen as charity, but as part of their social and economic fabric. So we're talking about the corporate sector, and I think part of our challenges is how do we redirect that spend? Apparently, 40% of that 12.7 billion goes to education, less than 2% to social justice. And it'll be interesting even to get Trilog to help us to understand just how much of those funds are going to support gender-based violence and femicide sort of programs, and how much of that would support the shelters. The challenge to businesses, and you may put some thoughts sort of on the table in this regard, is how do we move beyond compliance-driven CSI to more authentic partnerships and shared value between the corporates and the shelter movement. And it also presupposes that as a shelter, you are well known. It presupposes that you have a strong profile. And it also presupposes that you play this critical role in us having to address gender-based violence and femicide. And a question to you, in which we can sort of talk about further on, is, do you think that you are that well known? Do you think that you are that well appreciated, that you have the kind of profile that would draw the attention? So GBVF, as you know, is not just a social problem. It's also a business. It's also an economic issue, which is important for the corporates. The corporate involvement must evolve. They must transition from charity to how we co-create and how we partner. So that's an important sort of shift. And in some sort of conferences that I've been to, you know, there's always a reference to CSI. Some people have put the word, instead of saying corporate, they say cosmetic social investment, as opposed to sort of saying socially responsible corporates, SRH. In other words, the call to corporates is not just that you must do good, is that you must be good. And be good from a shared value point of view is not just that part of funding from a CSI point of view. It is the shared value. What else do corporates actually have to offer? And in fact, we have heard at the last Trilog conference that corporates were complaining that all they've been asked for are funds, when in fact there's a lot more that they could contribute, but we are not focusing in on that. So with that, I'm going to introduce the panel. And the panel members will introduce themselves. They will obviously do a much greater sort of process than I. So we have Tevan, and she will introduce herself, and Catherine, and Laureen. Okay. So I'm asking them to just introduce their company, their role, and in particular, what is their contribution, or what is their approach, rather, to social investment when it comes to gender-based violence and femicide. May I start with you?
It should be on. If you can. Morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to sit on this esteemed panel. My name is Tivian Naidu. I'm with the National Business Initiative. The National Business Initiative, despite its name, is actually a non-profit public benefit organization. And this year marks 30 years of our existence when the then president 30 years ago, Nelson Mandela, articulated that transformation of society will not be meaningful or possible without the involvement of the business sector in our new democracy. So he was very adamant that business needs to come to the party, that transformation and development is not just a government imperative, it's also a business imperative. And as a result, the National Business Initiative was born with the aim to bring together the private sector, corporate South Africa, into the room to fast track and facilitate and be part of the transformation and development and the national development agenda of South Africa. And I'm glad that that happened. 30 years later, we have involved ourselves in major interventions, and our main role is really to facilitate convenings and partnerships between the public sector, the private sector, civil society, and academia. We work across, I'm in the social transformation unit, which the GBV portfolio falls under. And we work across climate justice, state capacity building, and economic inclusion. So pretty much every part of society. And in keeping with our then president's call for action from the private sector, we recognize and we keep our finger on the pulse of where those critical business risks lie. And certainly GBV has become more and more prominent on the business agenda. Whereas once the private sector would think that this is a private issue, it'll be dealt with through wellness programs and psychologists, and if you have a formal job, then you can access hospitals and clinics and psychologists. Now there's a shift in thinking, and the thinking is that what happens in your company is a direct microcosm of what is happening in society. And it's the reflection of the scope and scale and impact of GBV, be it across the supply chain, the customer base, your employees, etc. It has, inevitably, it comes into the workplace. So I think we are quite grateful to see that shift in thinking. While not enough of it and not at scale, we are still working with champions like SPA to make that more visible. And to your point, Sean, yes, it's not only about funding, because as we know, even with ECD, it can become a bottomless pit. We know from our ECD statistics, children up to the age of 4, is that the latest statistic, still don't have the foundational capacity, despite that 40% of CSI funding going into that sector. So there's lots of learnings to happen, but I think those partnerships are the key to unlock what needs to be done, and also the key to co-create relevant solutions so that we're not plugging in money into this bottomless pit. I'll quickly fast track my speech, my spotlight. It's huge there in my eye. And just to say, yes, let's recognize and acknowledge the private sector, especially over the last 5-6 years, since 2019, since perhaps the total shutdown March, where civil society got together, marched to the JSE, handed over a memorandum demanding that 2% of corporate South Africa's profits needs to be diverted towards addressing GBV. We may not have met that target yet. We may not be close to meeting that target yet, but I think it did visibilize the need for the private sector to be more engaged and more involved. Since then, I think there have been some progress moments. For instance, the establishment of the GBV Response Fund, which is a pool of funding where 3/4 of the fund is a collective of private sector funding. The other quarter comes from development agencies. And as a result of that, support to TCCs have been fast-tracked. There's more involvement of industry bodies like the Minerals Council, for instance, having partnerships with the National Prosecuting Agency and yeah, to ensure that mining affected communities, GBV in mining affected communities, and support to the TCCs are strengthened. And the other thing that we see happening is an increased use of staff time, especially to the employee voluntary programs. So if you know, some of the big corporates have KPIs for their employees where they have to give up X amount of time per year to an NGO or a CBO or something. Here again, generally, it's the tendency and the trend is towards early childhood centers, you know, going and putting up a library or painting or supplying or fixing up things. But having said that, it could also be an opportunity and an entry point for the national shelter movement to tap into. Yeah, and despite those progress points, there's hey? Oh, okay. They still I just want to say, yeah, you know, the opportunities for the national shelter movement, I think, is to perhaps think critically about what advantages does the private sector have for you. Yeah, if you can think from a strategic point of view, the private sector has access to a vast customer base. So for communication, profiling, PR of the shelter movement, you can tap into that angle. The corporate sector has diverse geographical reach, so not just located in urban centers. I remember, I think from yesterday's discussion, one of the colleagues from government said that they still don't have a footprint in Beaufort West and another place. So there's opportunities there via the corporate sector to enter into peri-urban rural areas. The private sector also has tremendous investment in technology and technical resources that can be tapped into. So for instance, assisting with GBV databases, supporting the shelter movements to track and trace and have geomapping kind of hotspots. Those are some of the things that you can tap into. They also have access to the media, which is a very powerful route to use to profile the work of the movement. And of course, they have power and influence. Political power and influence. And I think that's very important for the shelter movement to tap into and make sure that the voices of the shelters are heard. I would suggest the national shelter movement leverage this power and this advantage, push for partnerships, and also work from towards not just shelters as welfare, but from a developmental ecosystem approach. So also link up with the broader social justice movement, coordinate partnerships with the education sector, the climate sector. The just transition has huge implications for job losses, which gives rise, of course, to GBV. And we can anticipate a spike there. So those kind of innovative partnerships, I would suggest looking towards a more ecosystem approach. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tivan. And it's given us a lot of food for thought and possibilities, but may I have the next introduction?
Thanks, Sean. Hi, I'm Kathy Baxter. I'm from the SPA Group, all the way from KZN. Head up socioeconomic development for SPA. We see that as more than CSR. CSR to me is a handout, whereas development is building and strengthening. SPA may be different to many corporates because we are firmly aligned to our purpose, which is to inspire people to do and be more. And our values are family, passion, and entrepreneurship. So within that, we try really hard to be able to make a difference in people's lives. Probably the biggest section of what I work with is ending gender-based violence. We started in 2019, and I'm not against raising awareness, But I do believe that when you come home and you take off the black clothes and you put down the placard, what's changed? So we made it very clear from the beginning, we're going to focus on practical solutions. So when I start talking about what we actually do, people are surprised because we never spend money on marketing. We just do it. So I'm happy to take questions later. We'll chat about it, but that's my background to the gender-based violence side of things.
Morning, everybody. My name's Loreen. I'm part of the team at a company called Smile Entrepreneurs. So I'm a co-founder of it. Essentially, we're I want to call us a collaborative, whether I've used the word consultancy or agency, but we often act as the bridge towards cause-related or purpose-driven interventions. So we do a lot of work with entrepreneurs. Our biggest focus is on sustainability and really around enabling companies, SMMEs, NPOs like yourselves to become more self-sustainable. So how I fit in here today is I'm very fortunate to be part of the team that's an enabling partner to Premier. And we're busy running a marketing campaign called Iwisa #1 Feels Good, where NISA is the end recipient of this marketing campaign, where there's a biomechanic with one of our retailers, Yorona, where wherever you buy an Iwisa #1 product, a percentage of that then gets set aside towards NISA. Now, this is not a traditional CSI initiative, and I think my biggest invitation to all of you today, to echo what my fellow panelists have shared, is my biggest call to action, or my biggest kind of positive disruption I can maybe offer you, is to, if you're not already doing it, to think of your NPO as a business. Because what that's going to shift in your thinking is it's going to move you from thinking about fundraising to reframing fundraising as strategic marketing and sales. Because the challenge that all of you are facing is you are in a highly competitive market. And this is me putting kind of my mentorship hat on, if I may. You're all operating in a highly competitive market. ECD is a competitor, and I say that very respectfully. But it's a competitor. So the question becomes, how do each of you, within your context, how do you reframe and reposition your relevance, your strategic relevance to a company like Premier, for example? Are you looking at the SDGs, for example? Are you able to clearly articulate which of the SDGs you're solving for? Do you have an impact story you can lead with? Right? That demonstrates what you're doing. And most importantly, are you viewing your donors as, I want to say prospects, as potential customers? And I'm using this languaging very deliberately again, just to really hone in the focus on strategic marketing and sales. Because the question becomes, how well do you understand your prospect? Because the better you understand your prospect, the better you're able to connect to them from a head or strategic perspective, but also from a heart perspective. And that increases your chances of success massively. And my biggest heartbreak in working on this campaign, we started this campaign last year with a pilot with several NPOs. My biggest heartbreak with this campaign last year was realizing, you know, if I look at all of you in this room, you're a remarkable group of people. You're already stretched and you're doing absolutely everything you can. Time is at a premium. So if I now sound like I'm asking you to give more, or I'm asking you to do more, what I want to say is no, not at all. I'm inviting you to be more strategic. And one of the best tools I can give you to do that, one of the tools we're working on with our SMEs, with organizations like yourselves, is to say, let's start with a prospects list. Let's do qualitative research. And the great news is AI can do that for you. So instead of just sending out a blanket request for funding, you can now say, Spark, we'd like to talk to you because we know this about you. And we know we solve for this in your communities. And that's why we're bringing value. And that's why we believe we can be a strategic partner to you going forward, because that's how you're going to build the lasting relationships. So I'm very encouraged, and I'm very, I'm very inspired. We have to remain inspired. We've got to remain hopeful by the work that we're doing. But also, my invitation to all of you this morning is, how can we assist you today through this panel to become more strategic and to focus on these things of being relevant and future facing? Because then you are able to demonstrate your value. And then you become so much more than somebody we donate to. And that's the reframe for me. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you for that. So I think our esteemed panel is really sort of calling on us. I think it's about a shift of paradigm, essentially, that you're actually looking at. I think one of the key things that we are realizing, two key things. The one key thing is that traditional philanthropy, in the way that has happened, is kind of broken, right? It is fickle, it is unreliable. And so our reliance on this international sort of pot of funding is a problem, as you've seen with USAID. They decide to stop tomorrow, there's nothing we can do. So clearly, we require a paradigm shift. But the second reality is that we cannot navigate ourselves to prosperity or development via grants and philanthropy. The question here is about access to capital. The question here is about, and I think Lorraine, I think Lorraine, you've been talking to us about an entrepreneurial kind of thinking, sort of a business element to that, understanding who we're competing with and what we're competing with are sort of key sort of elements. And I think it's pretty clear that it's not just that proposal you're going to write that's going to make the difference. And it's not just about collaboration. It's actually beyond collaboration. I think we're talking about the strategic alignment of interests more than anything else in order for you to be successful. So, Lorraine, if I can just sort of carry on with you, just along the lines of what you've been sharing with us, is that what would make a good investment case for the national shelter movement? I remember the other challenge we face is this divide response and prevention. And we know that there's some donors and there's some interests that say we don't fund response. We focus on sort of prevention. So even among the donors, they've divided and they've actually imposed an understanding on our work, which we need to resist, because I'm sure there's prevention in response and there's response in our prevention. But what would make a good investment case to be made with the shelter movement in mind?
No, thanks, Sean. So, I mean, I'll share some. So I come from a marketing background. This is maybe helpful to share up front. The starting point for me for any proposal is firstly knowing what you offer and are you articulating that well? So that goes back to Sean's point. What is it that you bring? And what is it that you bring of value to a corporate? So let me use this Iwisa #1 Feels Good campaign example. You have to remember that you're designing this proposal for the person sitting on the other side of the table who does not think like you think. Does that make sense? They don't think like you think. There are certain other things that switch them on, that make them light up, right? So the first thing, there are two things that we always focus on. The first is, how well do you understand the pain points of the organization that you are approaching, of the corporate you're approaching, right? And these things, remember, again, and I'll loop back to the AI at the end of this, but you start off by looking at, you can look at corporate reports. You don't have to read everything, just read the chairman's statement, read the CEO's statement. What community issues, what are they trying to solve for, right? What are their pain points? What is their purpose statement? Which are their values? So that's your first filter. Are you already aligned? If they've articulated SDGs, do you link to any of those SDGs? The next question is you need to do some research about finding the right person. How do you find this lady in SPA? Not how do you find SPA, how do we find this lady in SPA? Right? So that's what you've got to then do. And you've got to look, again, you've got to start getting creative about job titles you search for. So some of the most powerful research we do is we say, who is the endpoint that we need to connect to? Is it transformation? Is it sustainability? We look for that job title. We look for them on LinkedIn, and we start reading about that person. And then we understand two pain points. We understand an organizational pain point or challenge or striving, and we also understand that person's KPIs a bit better. And then we look for how do we fit with them. So your proposal isn't just tailored for the organization, it's tailored for me. It's tailored for the person that's going to receive it. And you're demonstrating the fit. So again, if I go to the WISA campaign, so why is NISA a good fit ultimately for the premier champion sitting on the other side of the table? Well, because NISA articulates some of the WISA #1 brand promises, which is about enabling individuals in communities and building our communities to be stronger. That means in my proposal, I'm going to use those exact words, right? Those exact words. The second thing that I understand is that WISA is also a brand, right? They're in retailers. What do they need to do? They need to sell. What am I doing through my work at NISA? I'm rebuilding within the community. I'm also building goodwill. So I'm potentially going to increase their customer base going forward. Now, that might be something that won't switch any of you on, but it will switch on the person sitting on the other side of the table. Right? So again, this is about inviting you to think strategically, to step out of your role, to step to the strategic person sitting on the other side of the table to understand their KPIs. The last little thought I'll leave you with is, some of the best advice I can give you, and I don't say this in any way glibly at all. You are all champions and heroes and heroines at what you do. The best marketing advice you can give anybody is you need to make your customer, who is your donor, the hero. You need them to shine, right? That's what switches everybody on. So the proposal that you write needs to show that's what you're going to do. And in that way, you're going to create something that stands out, something that's worth reading, something that's worth engaging with, because I'll understand your impact. I'll understand why this can be a partnership, and I'll understand what a future can look like together. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. I hope you realize we're in a master class here, right? Let me hand over to Ken.
This one, following what from Lorraine said, I need to give you some practical tips, please. I cannot tell you, I know you guys are busy. I'm also busy. I get hundreds of Lorraine finding me on a monthly basis. And I need to please ask you, remember 3 S's if you can. Keep it simple, keep it short, keep it succinct. Simple-minded, single focus. If you want something, don't come to me with a shotgun approach and say, this is everything we do, where can you help? Kathy, I know that you do this. Please, can you help us with this particular thing? Once you are in with me, I'm going to work with you. I'm talking me. I can't talk for the rest of private South Africa. I'm sorry, but for me, you've built the trust, you've delivered, you can show me what's happening. The other thing, and this is possibly slightly more than what Lorraine was saying, but you are fighting against pictures of happy children in ECD establishments. And you have a picture of a person who is beaten, and nobody wants to see that. And I'm being honest now, okay? People think that a GBV victim is a young black girl. And horribly in this country, young black girls do not have a huge amount of social status. And that burns me. What you need to do is to get to the people who can give you money, and they look at numbers. They look at the fact that our GBV in this country takes 2% of our GDP. When you are talking to men who talk, sorry, I'm talking men generally. I know that there are lots of female financial people in this audience. When you are talking to people who look at numbers, you need to tell them that you can change that GDP and make the country a better place. That GBV is in your company. A third of women have been affected by domestic violence. They are in your company. You can fix that by helping them. And that's the kind of thing you need to change the narrative. Don't just come asking for funding. Ask for something practical. This is where I want to start. Build that relationship. Please do not give up. Okay. I'm a very busy person. If you keep bugging me, it's that squeaky wheel, it's that mosquito in the room. I might finally find the time to talk to you. And that's how you go. And please don't come to me a week before you have an event. I can't help you. Okay. Thanks.
That sounds like a threat, huh? If I can just hand to Tivan.
I'll hop on that strategic innovation train quickly and say exactly that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll hop on that strategic innovation train, bullet train, and say that, yeah, from where we sit, because we have a bird's eye view of the needs of the corporate South Africa. If in your proposals, in your reaching out, you can show that you are going to contribute to the ESG targets of businesses, I think that they will be a good hook. The other is to show the numbers in your social return on investment, and there's a formula for that. And if you can show that, you know, over, and even extrapolate it for the future based on previous numbers, and then use that as a basis to extrapolate for the next 3 years, and show to the company that this is the impact, not just on society, but also for your customer base, for the communities that give you a license to operate in. I think that would make the world of difference. You will make life easier for them. And those are the hooks. That's the language, the corporate language that they like to read and hear. And that's where I think you can meet the two worlds.
So it's clear that we need to inform ourselves. We need to educate ourselves. Research is critical. We need to keep it simple and short. And nobody, as Kathy says, has the time to read a 40-page proposal. We need a very succinct sort of value proposition to know what we're competing against, even though some of us may have ECD centers within our sort of shelters. And it seems like a reference to social returns on investment if we want to address this 2% impact on GDP. But you've heard in the language here is you should, you must, you need to. And of course, the question for us is can we get help in doing that? Because we're also concerned about the smaller shelters where we don't have Queen's English and we don't have a department that writes good proposals, etc. And so how do we help even those at the grassroots level where English is second, third language and become particularly articulate? So I think the question is, how can you help build kind of institutional resilience? You may say it's not our responsibility, but if we understand that this is what's required, how do we get the help to do that, to be good at it?
Okay,
so I think that, so there are two things from my perspective. The first wonderful thing in your favor is definitely AI. That's what I'm going to say to all of you. Now, again, remember the proposal that you get out of AI is only as good as the rule or as the guide that you put in to AI. Okay, so I just want to, maybe this is a piece of very practical advice that I can give you. So very practical advice is when you write to ChatGPT or whoever is your friend, DeepSeek, Manus, Claude, they all out there, right? When you say, hi, ChatGPT or whatever, you need to tell ChatGPT who they are. So you need to say, you are an expert in fundraising in the GBV sector in Johannesburg South, in Gauteng. you are creating a proposal for this company linked to its SDGs, and you must put in the reference point for the website. Please create a best practice proposal, to Kathy's point of 2 pages, that clearly articulates, that shows them how we match or how we fit with their corporate values, how we can help them solve for their SDGs, and clear action points of what we want next. But you need to be that practical with ChatGPT. And then, of course, you don't just accept it and send it to Kathy. You've got to read it, and you've got to obviously edit it, and you've got to do what you need to do, right? Because remember, ChatGPT is not you. But the point is, it gives you a wonderful practical starting point. The other thing I want to say that's very important is, before you even send Kathy your little mini proposal, the main thing is, when she goes to look for you, what is she going to find? Because this is the other thing. Remember, what I can tell you from working with Premier is, Premier, because it's listed, has a whole list of compliance requirements that it has to meet. It's got to prove that you exist, that you're going to use the money for what you say you're going to use it for. So you need to make sure that your house is in order. You also need to make sure that if I come and look for you, your website, if you have a website, is reflecting what you've put in your proposal, right? So there needs to be a correlation with the marketing. I'm also happy from my side, and I'll get in touch with everybody who's organized this. We're very happy. We'll happily offer a masterclass for everybody that people can join, where we can only share what we know, but in the hope that that will help. So I'm happy to offer that.
I hope we're recording this. That's a commitment.
Sorry, I'm still short. Yeah, another thing that we do a lot is, please understand, private sector does not have unlimited funding. We answer to shareholders who unfortunately do live up to their name. So we are scrapping to try and find the best way we can use our budget. And I have actually met with some organizations and said to them, if I could give you no money, what else could I help you with? Okay. And the one lady said, I need a website because mine is broken and I can't get donations through my website. So we got one of our IT guys to help her with setting up her website. Now, I can't promise that for everybody, but that's the kind of thing we would do. We also helped her with employment policies, because I won't say which department wasn't paying stipends for their people, and the people thought they were taking the money. And so she said, can I get some policies? So we gave her workplace policies. That's free. I don't care. I can share it with anybody. It's that kind of approach we'd like to take as well. And can I just say, because this is something I'm very proud of, and I know that the board knows, that SPA is actually going to be rolling out some training for shelters in how to be a cashier, a merchandiser, or a GRV clerk, which are entry-level positions in stores. It will be rolling out in the new year. You can do it, if you're in a shelter, you can download onto the shelter laptop, or you can put on your smartphone, and when you've finished, you load it back up into the system, and you will get a certificate of compliance, of completion. It's not any SACRA affiliated thing. It's more to say to our retailers, we have these people who are available, who've done the training. If you are looking for someone who's gone through the training, who has an understanding of what happens, this is it. So we will put you in touch with retailers who might be looking for people. That's the kind of thing we can do that doesn't actually cost a lot of money, but it can actually probably help in some way. And so that's another way that if you are looking for help with a private corporation, and they say, we can't give you money. So, well, what else, can we just chat about what else we can get in? You get that toe in the door, you get the second toe in the door, you get your elbow in, and suddenly starting to work with these people, you've built a relationship. I hope that helps.
Thank you. That's exactly what we need.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and just to that point, to reinforce that point, over and above point, funding, I just want to share a real example. SAP, the software people. It's a multinational. Was that me? Big multinational, US based, but huge footprint in South Africa. Every year they take their C-suite executives It's part of their KPIs, but it took a lot of lobbying to get to that point. And they deployed them in many poverty-stricken areas and countries between South America, Africa, Asia, and they have them stay there for a month, offering institutional support, not funding, but giving off their IP, their development, their skills, passing that on. There's a kind of work in progress idea to replicate that in South Africa, and provide IT technology skills, financial skills, all those important detailed things that most NGOs, NPOs don't have the time for. So yeah, so those things are.
So thank you very much. I think there are a lot of services and value add that we can look forward to that will help build our sort of resilience. I know I've got 1 or 2 minutes, if I can. I know that we've been saying to you, sorry, 1 minute. We've been saying to you, this is what you need to change and this is what you need to do. But I'd like to invite 1 or 2, can I invite 1 or 2 comments? Please don't ask us the question, because then it means we must answer it and we don't have the time. But can you leave us with one sort of insight, one change you would like to see in how corporates should collaborate with shelters moving forward from your perspective?
Sean, I'm going to be a little bit opportunistic. Good morning, Bernadine Bakasaki, Bartman Center. I just wanted to inform you that all three of you, that the NSM is rolling out an initiative where we're going to be inviting corporates to come and spend a day and an evening in shelters across the country. We're calling it CEO, and it's a way for us to introduce the work that we do, highlight the work that shelters are doing, and I'd like to formally today to invite you into that initiative to come and join us and really be with us when we do everything in the shelters. So thank you.
Cool. That is very creative. Yeah. No pressure, but we should see all three of you there. Any other, one more comment or 2 more comments? An insight, a comment?
Yes, a comment, but I want to also say thank you to the SPA group who were a beneficiary last year of the Christmas like no other. We received the groceries that, yeah, lasted for a very long time. And we also shared it with other organizations. But to answer your question is, as shelters or CBOs, we are not always looking for money. We are saying let's collaborate. If you're an accounting firm, come and do our financial statements. If you're an attorney, come and help us with our legal matters. Like now I'm ready to write a letter to social development. So I need to go and get a lawyer to help me. If you don't necessarily have to give us money. Check within what you do, what can you help? Thanks.
And that's a good example of shared sort of value. So if we can leave it at this, I think our time is up. I need to thank the panelists. This was really a masterclass, a medium masterclass. I think the one issue besides you needing to do your research and getting to understand your donor as a client, as a customer, etc., is not just your returns on social investment, but it's also your returns on the relationships. It's also your ROR, which I think is key to your success. So thank you very much. Could we please give them? Thank you. Hello.
Thank you so much for that. I'm so glad I started this morning by saying how important words are to me. My email address is lisa@ibabatani, and ibabatani means butterfly. I chose butterfly because we don't just want transformation, we want irreversible transformation. Thank you so much to the contributors this morning. Sean, I remember your dynamic presentation from last year. So when I got back and I realized I didn't introduce you, I thought you'd do a very good job introducing yourself as the person that can change challenges to opportunities, and you never waste a good crisis, and looking at corporate responsibility, not as charity, but a business strategy. That's something that I firmly believe in. Tevin, thank you so much. You almost sounded apologetic calling yourself a national business initiative, even though you're a public benefit organization. Both of those are what we need. Somebody else's talk about how you have to look at your safe house and your NPO as a business. I feel like that's a part of the problem in the country, that we're not running the country like a business, but that's just my personal opinion. And then I wanted to say the importance of partnerships, facilitating partnerships with economic inclusion. I used to work with recycling, and going to companies and talking to people who do corporate social responsibility about recycling, upcycling, repairing, doesn't fit the bill because they have so many requests. But when you go and speak to the finance people and tell them what credit their company can get, reducing this one. This one? Yes. Using their building a sustainability policy, and then using that to show how that they're reducing their carbon footprint. So making it a financial and a strategic issue, not just a corporate social responsibility. And there's no economic inclusion without relationships. So Tevin, I absolutely agree with that. We must be clear how we can enroll private sector. That was what I said. That was my note that I made. And then the answers just came through the next speakers. Kathy, I must say, with SPA, when people drive into the airport, a lot of the times they take pictures of Cape Town International arrivals and departures. I take a picture of SPA saying end gender-based violence. It's across a whole parking area, I think. So thank you very much for that. And Kathy, the fact that you initiated a workplace harassment policy and implemented it successfully and structured peer-to-peer counseling. I was telling somebody recently that I worked in corporate for 14 years. When I shared personal stories with people I thought were my friends for a long time, only once I shared my story did they come to me and tell me their stories. And it's when you share the story and when you have that peer-to-peer and you build those relationships in your workplace. During COVID, I know of somebody who was sitting on a Zoom meeting and her husband came and smashed her and then threw the computer down because he felt she was working too much. So gender-based violence is in our workplaces. It's not just in townships, it's everywhere. And people are not getting that message. We, I think, are not getting that message across clearly enough, that gender-based violence hasn't to do with poverty, but actually has to do with power. And then Loreen, being a bridge and a connector is the most important job in South Africa today, because we are still rebuilding trust. We are rebuilding a country where everybody feels supported and safe. So for me, to treat connections and relationships as the first point of call is important. And using AI, this is the way that it works now. So I'm sitting here thinking my brain's going crazy about how we as a board, because often I feel like, what's my job here? You know, I'm a communicator. I can write. I can kind of use AI as a 57-year-old, but I can help people with that, and we can have standard summarized one-page requests. And the fact that people say funding is again back to words, and that you're giving people permission to say what it is that we need. We need a website. We need care packs. We need office furniture. Old Mutual donated so much office furniture after COVID, when they had all those screens and they didn't need them anymore. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. So thank you very much. That was very, very informative and very encouraging, because I like the language that you used and the authenticity with which you presented to us. I'd like to now invite Ms. Jackie Wessels, who is going to talk to us about the cyber crimes bill. Welcome, Jackie. And if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, I find it easier when we just introduce ourselves because we use 2 or 3 sentences. And don't be shy.
Okay. Is the cable for the PowerPoint or to be put up or not?
There's no cable. Do you need a cable?
Oh,
This is
well.
the pointer. This is the pointer. I don't know.
Or there's somebody else putting it up?
Oh, no, you do.
Is it up? Oh, okay, because I can't see there. Good morning, everybody. It was a very interesting panel just now, I have to admit. And because I'm also a big fan of using technology to improve access to justice, it is really interesting discussions that was happening. And yeah, I'm the regional court president for the regional division in Limpopo. And so I'm in charge of the regional courts. And as you know, the regional courts, we do all the serious crimes. And we basically deal with gender-based violence cases in our courts on a daily basis. And before I'm starting to talk about cybercrime and the bill, or the act actually, I should maybe just mention, because I think it is appropriate to talk just after the panel and things that were said. One of the things that we've been starting to do in Limpopo in the regional court for our witnesses, and that is now for more than 3 years that we're doing it, is our witnesses can testify virtually. They can testify from wherever they are feeling safe. And I do think, especially for you as shelters and also for Westpar and other businesses, providing a safe space for people to be able to testify where they are feeling safe and comfortable, because we know it's not safe and comfortable for them to come to the court building. In fact, we know about the people that have been killed at the building. So, and that impacts the trauma and the stress of just having to go to court, impacts terribly on their ability to actually testify properly as well. In law, it is allowed, okay? The subpoena forms is just being amended and will come in operation at the end of the month, where it will be clearly spelled out for people who they can contact in order to make arrangements for a virtual link. And that would be something that I think in your proposals, you can consider. Improving access to justice, get that laptop, and you just need a laptop with a camera and a router with Wi-Fi and maybe a noise reduction headphone. That's all you need. And that it makes a huge to people, especially people also that need to travel far to get to their courts. And they don't have all of that stress having to wait at court and often having to come back again. What we also had started doing in Limpopo from earlier this year, from March actually, is that we provide virtual links for the judgments and the sentences, because we do believe that it's important for people to know what happened to the cases. And we do send it out as well. So that for me is a way that we can just not only make sure that people are actually knowing what happened to their case where they have been witnesses in, but also for the community to know and understand. And I must admit to you that sometimes people would have listened to a judgment, and it does take time, okay? These things, we don't do it quick, okay? It does take time. And they would come back to me afterwards and say, I've been so traumatized by your regional magistrate's judgment about what happened. But sometimes that helps to spread the word about how serious this is. And also for people to understand how serious the sentences is that we are giving. And how seriously the courts are viewing this. So maybe sort of think about all of these things as well when you're putting together your proposals, and how you can actually, through what you are doing, assist in the ways to provide easier access to the courts and link up with your local courts and Well, like I said, if it's in Limpopo, it's easy to be able to get the link. You can just call me. But in the others, my colleagues in the other provinces are also looking into doing something similar. But it would be good if it can come from you guys as well. Okay, so cyber violence. I was asked to talk about cyber violence or cyber crimes and the cybercrime bill, and I keep on saying to Anissa, no, man, it's an act. It's been an act for a while now. I don't want to, I know my time is limited, so I know you guys have already had a long conference. So I'm not going to deal into things that you necessarily would, well, that you obviously won't be knowing. I just have it all together so that it's just there. Now, you all know what gender-based violence is. And you know that it's a very wide definition. When we are dealing with cyber violence in particular, it's simply, and from a gender-based violence perspective, where the use of computer systems and technology is used to more easily perpetrate crimes. And we know the criminals had evolved a lot, and that it really is a big, big problem in our country. If you start looking at cyber violence and cyber crimes generally, it is evolving all the time. You all probably know about the fact that if you get that SMS or that email that tells you that you had won one or other lottery or something, just delete it. If it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true. And whether or not it's something, a package that is waiting for you and you have to pay 15 Rand to get it, if you haven't ordered something, just delete it. Okay? Because a lot of the scams that in the old days were done in person, it's now done through technology. Unfortunately, if you look at the sort of main types of cyber crimes generally, you get all the ones that dealing sort of with the violation of privacy. That includes your stalking and your sextortion, the revenge porn related ones as well, identity theft and other types of impersonations. You get your ICT hate crimes, which we all have seen is all over social media in particular, where people think they can say anything about anybody or groups of people. You get your cyber harassment type of things, which is anything from a type of defamation, cyberbullying in particular, which we know is a huge problem. Oh, I don't know because I can't see where I am. There you are, sorry. Where you would get your teenagers in particular that are really, really suffering under cyberbullying in all kinds of different ways. And we know that had led to, in particular, suicides as well, not just in South Africa, but actually it's something that is a scourge worldwide. The sexual abuse of children and child sexual abuse images that is going on. However, because of the easy way to use technology, it is just so much easier. And so it expanded so much more, and it's much more of an industry than when it was simply just in-person related ones. In an article that research that was done in 2021, at that stage, they found that more than 3.2 million learners were bullied every day in South Africa. The impact is really difficult on the learners themselves. And one of the big concerns is the fact that most of the school bullying is carried out by other learners. And they really don't seem to understand the seriousness of what they are doing to their classmates. However, when we are talking about cyberbullying, it's not just within the school system and, WhatsApp or group kind of on social media. It is also through the gaming sites, video sharing sites. It has got a variety of different ways that it's done in. Anything from spreading rumors, name calling, the embarrassing photos, hacking into somebody's account, taking, pretending to be them, catfishing, the sending sexually explicit photos or messages. That had been actually made worse because of AI, because you get these AI apps now that will take an image from anybody and create it as a naked, sexually suggestive kind of photo. It's no longer just the kind of things that they used to do, the deepfakes they used to do with the photo apps, sort of putting a face on a body kind of thing. This is much more sophisticated as well. And we've all seen some of the AI creations that look and sound very real. So, internationally, there have been the conventions, and now very recently, a couple of weeks ago, we as a country has also signed the new United Nations Cyber Convention. But we've been involved with, we've signed the Budapest Cyber Convention, which is more the European one, quite a number of years ago. And within the SADC region, the SADC Parliament had actually already in 2014 provided for a draft model cybercrime law for the SADC countries to use as an example in order. So over the last few years, a lot more of the SADC countries, including ourselves, had actually moved to get new cyber legislation. And one of the important things, because it's such an international crime, borders is no issue when you're on the internet. So it's very important that there be similarities in the kind of crimes that we all have, so that as a country, every country be able to actually, if the criminal is in our country, we can actually prosecute them regardless of whether or not they committed the crime towards, well, they probably would have South African and other victims all across the world. So our Cybercrimes Act is Act 19 of 2020. It was assented to by Parliament in May 2021, and it was published by the government in the Government Gazette on the 1st of June 2021. And most of the provisions in the Cybercrime Act already has been in operation as from the 1st of December 2021. So it's been around for a couple of years. However, we do know that there's still a lot of people that, if they think a lot of GBV crimes, people are often reluctant to actually report. The cyber ones is even worse. People just don't report it, and it really should be reported. And therefore, it is important to understand what it is. One of the things in the Act is that during the course of a criminal trial, there's a provision that an interim protection order can be made during the course of the trial if necessary. That is the one part 6 of the Act that is not yet in operation. However, any person can get a harassment order, protection order, or a domestic violence protection order, depending on whether or not there's a domestic relationship in the meantime as well. When it is a cyber bullying, or if you're getting these WhatsApps or these calls or these emails or whatever else, and you want a protection order, the legislation, both the Domestic Violence Act as well as the Cybercrime Act, the Protection from Harassment Act, makes provision that if you are not sure who is doing it, that the court can issue a request to the service provider in order to make known who it is, so that that person can actually be made a respondent in the matter and the protection order can be issued against that person. They can, in certain circumstances, for example, if it is an embarrassing picture that is up that's sexually exploitive, etc., the court can be requested to make an order forcing the service provider to take it down. However, that's not always that easy because some of them, or a lot of them, are sitting in other countries, in America, for example, where it's really difficult to actually get them to take it down. Okay. But I do think it's important that everybody also know that as if you are on a specific website or app, etc., TikTok, Instagram, etc., you can lodge a complaint with the administrator as well of that website if there is something like this going on. Okay, and people should just remember that too. We really don't have time to go into a lot of detail, but I thought I'll just throw up something about some of the cyber crimes that we have now in the legislation as well. And it is from unlawful access to your devices or data, interception of data, unlawful acts in regards to software, for example, if they plant a virus or malware on your devices or your software, interference with computer data storage mediums, unlawful acquisition of passwords or use of passwords and access codes, etc. And this for you as organizations, obviously, is also extremely important because it is very, very important. Cyber threats are very real, okay? You must ensure that you have a proper cybersecurity policy. Seriously, guys, it truly, truly is serious. Cyber fraud. Cyber fraud is quite wide. Now, a lot of people know about, and unfortunately, it's a lot of time women that had been caught in the so-called romance scams, right? Those online dating sites where anybody can pretend to be anybody. Exactly. And then they are, slowly starting to ask for money and this and that and whatever else. And before they know it, they've got nothing left. The so-called romance scams or catfishing, that will fall under, we've got the cyber fraud crime there as well. Cyber forgery and uttering if they pretend to be somebody else. Extortion, the cyber extortion. Now, we all know about the so-called sextortion. That can be covered by that as well, but we do have other ones as well that deals more specifically or can be utilized for the so-called revenge porn type of ones, where love make people blind and sometimes a bit stupid, I think. The way you were sending a photo or something, and then either the breakup comes or otherwise it is used where there's sort of something, okay, now I want more, or you pay me this or that, or I'm going to send this to your friends, family, colleagues, whoever else, unless you pay or do something. There's even what they call aggravated offenses and theft. Now, under Part 2, what we have as malicious communication, for a lot of the cyberbullying related ones, that would be falling under this malicious communication. However, the Cybercrimes Act is not the only act that have got this kind of crimes included, and I will show you just now. We're talking here about your data messages that incite damage to property or violence. That's threatening persons with damage to property or violence. I'm going to kill your dog. I'm going to kill your mother. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to burn your house down, or I'm going to break your car, whatever. And then here is also the disclosure of a data image of an intimate image. So if it is that photo and they threaten, if they actually disclose it or they even just threaten to disclose it, there is a crime that is covering that in the Cybercrimes Act that is operational, okay, and can be used. As with most legislation and crimes, whether you've actually done it or whether you just attempted it or conspired to do it or aid or abet somebody, you can still be charged with those crimes as well, okay? And you get the same punishment. Now, for that malicious communication, on conviction, it's liable to a fine or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 3 years, or to both a fine or such imprisonment, which may not be regarded necessarily as a lot. But if we think about a lot of these being done, for example, by your teenagers, etc., it is important that they know they can face serious penalties for this. And obviously, this is the kind of thing that will impact on them for the rest of their lives. Now, also from the 1st of December 2021, through the Cybersecurity Act, Cybercrime Act, there were amendments made to the Criminal Law, Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Act, okay? SORMA, the one that we use for all the sexual offences. And what it did was to include a couple of new definitions from disclose and disclosure with regards to pornography, and included, for example, things like the live performance involving child pornography, because of the fact that we know that these live streaming events is happening. And they've included that as part of the child pornography related crimes as well as live streaming events, whether or not you attend it or arrange it or is anything involved with it. Then they've got a new section as from the 1st of December 2021, section 11 capital A, the harmful disclosure of pornography, where you had a sexualized picture, pornography. And I'm talking here about adults, okay, obviously. And this is being disclosed without consent to cause any kind of harm to either the person whose photo it is, for example, or any member of the family or anybody else. Then there's an offense called the harmful disclosure of pornography. And any threats to do so is also an offense in itself. And this is relating in particular, like I said, to the so-called revenge porn kind of cases. Also, if they are using it in order to get any kind of money or other kind of advantages or benefits, that they threaten that they will disclose it unless you pay or do something, etc. That is also part of the harmful disclosure of pornography-related extortion offense that is created in terms of Section 11, capital A, in the Sexual Offences Act. Okay, so I am sorry, I'm having difficulty keeping up on the side because it's not on my laptop linked. I'm sorry. Okay, so there is it the one that often can be used for revenge porn. What is different between using the one in the Cybercrime Act, and there's a similar one also actually in the Film and Publications Act, and the one in SORMA, is that with the SORMA one, if the case is in the regional court, I use my normal jurisdiction, which is up to 15 years. So I'm not limited with the sentence to just 3 years as in the Cybercrime Act. The other one that I just quickly want to bring to your attention, which is really important, I think, with a lot of the kind of harassment and sexual harassment kind of things that people are getting also on WhatsApp and other kind of things. And there's a new offense that is in operation since the 31st of July 2022. This in section 14, capital A, called sexual intimidation. So if somebody intentionally utters or conveys any kind of threat to you that inspire belief of imminent harm to either yourself, that a sexual offense will be committed against you, or against somebody else, I am going to rape so-and-so. Then there is this new offense of sexual intimidation, because we know this kind of thing is happening all the time. And sometimes it's very subtle, right? Making you feel uncomfortable, but this is any kind of sexual offense. So this does not just have to be rape. It can be any kind of sexual assault or any kind of grooming for that matter as well. There is so many sexual offenses if you look at the legislation. As I've mentioned earlier, apart from the criminal, there is just also, don't forget about the fact that there are the protection orders. I know people often feel that they're not all that effective, but it can assist, and it can also assist in figuring out who is the person that is sending these messages or making these comments on the different social media platforms, if you don't know who it is, by applying for it and the court requesting the service providers for the details of that account. Okay. And with that, oh, yeah. Yes. Sorry. That wasn't on the whole time, so it made it difficult for me to keep up. But sorry, guys, I know the use of technology has not been the best here. It should have been better. Thank you very much. I don't know if there is time for questions or comments. And I hope that this has assisted slightly to just, like I said, please just make sure you understand it's not a bill anymore. It's been an act for a while. It's very much in operation, yes. Ooh. That sounds as if it's got life.
Good afternoon, everyone, or morning. I just want to comment that I actually enjoyed or learned a lot from this presentation, because as NPOs, I think we are targeted. I don't know if it's just me. I get a lot of, they know that we send a lot of applications. I mean, the thieves or the cyber thieves. So there was a time I applied for Lotto, and I got a response to say, hey, you've been awarded with a funding application has been approved. Please click here to, to acknowledge or to accept. I was like, but why so soon? Because it was so soon. And then I was just like, no, I'm just gonna call them. Have you guys started with acceptance letters and all that? They were like, no, we are so far from that, but we received the applications. So I'm thinking, if I did accept it and clicked on that link, what was gonna happen? And we keep on getting them. Some are suppliers. Department of Correctional Services needs your, what do we call them? They need a supplier. Please send a proposal. Please send it here. Whatever. So I think as NPOs, we must also be very, very careful, because they know we're desperate for funding, we're desperate for money. So we must just be careful with these links and approvals. Yeah.
That is very true what you're saying. Just make sure that before you delete, take a screenshot. Keep it there, because if you find that specific email addresses are targeting you, it does just make it also a little bit easier. But it is important to make sure that you report as far as possible these kind of instances. There are different places to report this as well. different organizations, and it is important to make sure that you do that, because you're absolutely right. You will be a target. I mean, we all are targets, but specific organizations often would also be in additional targets.
Hi, Jackie.
Yes.
Thank you for your insightful presentation. So I love that Limpopo is doing virtual testimonies. I think that is so trendy and forward-thinking. I'd like to ask you two questions, though. In line with that trend, technology, forward-thinking, do you think that protection orders will head the same way in terms of digital applications? Because I think that would probably lead to fast-tracking a lot. And I know it's probably going to open up a can of worms in your mind right now.
No.
The second question is how swift is the judicial system handling such crimes relating to your topic? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Department of Justice had been working on developing the online platform for the domestic violence online applications for a long time now. They've been really slow. For my sins, I had been involved, well, one of the people that were part of the task team. And I suppose I'm a little bit of a terrorist for the poor developers, because I know just enough about these things to be problematic, I suppose, or whatever. It has really been a problem, okay? There were a variety of different reasons why it is a problem. So they're currently having a little pilot in a couple of courts, okay, for the online applications. It's moving way slower than it should. It is really, really concerning that it's taking so long. There had been a bit of a problem with the legislation as well, because it still requires it to be an affidavit. So you can't just submit it automatically online. You still need to get it printed, commissioner of oaths, and then sent through. And I was actually telling them, we were in a meeting a week or two ago, and I was telling them about the fact that I'm rather embarrassed about how far behind we are if we look at some of our neighboring countries. Because if you Google it, it's AI Atlas for Justice. It is the Oxford University with their unit for law and justice that it developed it together with the Clooney Foundation. And the one in Malawi specifically with the the Malawi Women Lawyers Association. They have developed an app where a person applying for a protection order can speak to the app in Shishiwe, the local language, that will then ask them the relevant questions, ensure that complete the form for them, basically, and assist them to submit it. Yes. So this was developed together with Microsoft, and because of the fact that this is a basic model that was developed, it's trained on that specific country's specific legislation, right? So it's an agentic AI. It's not ChatGPT that will tell you about the laws of a different country. So I'm actually having this afternoon a meeting with the people with the Oxford University again, and together with a judge from Tanzania and a prosecutor from South Africa, because one of the things that we are feeling is that but it would need an organization or organizations to actually link up with them and take it further and get them, because this is part of Microsoft's, their social responsibility or whatever projects as well. So, and therefore they said it's simply a question now that there's a basic model, AI model, agentic AI model. It's teaching or training it on the relevant country's law, and then the languages that can be used. They've also done kind of legal advice chatbot that is also specifically trained on the local legislation and law. That has been developed in Malawi. So you can understand where I'm very upset. Yeah. You know, Malawi is not known to be a country with a lot of riches and development. If it can be done there, yes. Yes, by women. So I hope that gives you some hope for the future and maybe another idea to take further. And unfortunately, in the regional courts, our court rolls is terrifying high. It really, I must tell you that the amount of work had more than doubled in the last couple of years, as I suppose more awareness is being raised, etc. The district courts roles are not that bad. They do it much quicker. So we work very hard on the turnaround time. We have been doing a Limpopo with all the courts 100-day challenges every year in order to make sure that we can deal with the old outstanding cases and improve turnaround times. But using technology and letting them testify virtually and being able to get them quickly. Doctors, forensic guys, none of them come in person to my courts. So we are saving them a lot of money too. And we can often get them on relatively short notice that they will testify from their offices and a case doesn't have to be postponed. And like I said, this is something, my wish would be that every shelter should have something like that. And maybe every spa should have something like that too. Because there's spas in a lot of rural places where there's no courts around, and it's so difficult for people to travel all the way to court. Yeah, it can make such a big difference, really. And it also, you can see it, the difference between people testifying inside a court or even in the testifying room in the court building. It's still stressful. They still had to hang around there and everything, vis-a-vis being able to testify remotely. The other thing is it makes it very easy for us to get witnesses from everywhere in the world. We've had people testifying from New Zealand, Australia, China, Zambia, you name it. UK, different, anywhere, literally anywhere, people testify. The biggest thing with the other countries around the world is just time difference. But it's possible and we do it. I hope it helps.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jackie, very much for that. I also thank you. I also learned so much from this presentation, and I'm always looking at cyberbullying and cyber crimes in relation to my children and teaching them, because people are trying to not let their children have access to phones and computers as opposed to teaching them what not to do. So so thank you. That was very interesting. So as NPOs, we should be upskilling ourselves, but certainly as people, as people, as parents, as peers, as partners in relationships, we also have to take responsibility for ourselves and make good choices around that. So thank you very much. And also, I know that all these cases take very long. To Janine's question, my dad always used to say the arm of the law is long and patient, and justice will come. It's just about also persevering. South Africa has some of the most progressive laws and the best constitution in the world. So why can't we be using our computer, our technology, and our skills to make the system work better for more people? I'd love to invite up the social workers from the province to give us a feedback on the state of shelters in the provinces. Is it Patience and Bonisiwe? Please join us on the stage. Feedback. Just yes, sure. Thank you. Just introduce yourself.
Good morning, colleagues. I'm a very tall person, so I have to stand on the side because the podium is hiding me behind this. My name is Dudu, in full Dudu Etsang Slachile. I am the Chief Director for Social Welfare Services in Limpopo. I don't think I need to say anything more than that. My history is quite long, so if I tell you where I studied and what I did, it will take forever, and my time is very short. I have shared the presentation on Limpopo and our shelters in Limpopo, but the beauty of being one of the last speakers is that you get a chance to listen to everyone and you start realizing what are the things that we have not shared. So I will not follow the presentation page by page as it is. I will just summarize some things. And I think towards the end, I want to tie in a number of things so that we know where we are as a province. Limpopo has got 5 districts. I think you all are aware of that. But one of the distinguishing issues with Limpopo is that across all social welfare services, we don't have facilities. Literally, we don't. We don't have facilities for children. We just don't have facilities. We've got only 9 facilities across all the programs that social development is giving. So this actually gives you a picture that even when you talk to shelters in Limpopo, we don't have. We only have 2 at present, and one of them is closed temporarily. And the reason is that after the monitoring visits were done, we picked up that there's a lot of things they were not complying with. So we agreed with them that we'll give them time so that they can upgrade some of those issues and then continue with those services. So at present, we only have 1 that is functioning, which is government owned. But across the whole province, we've got, in all the districts, we've got emergency overnight accommodation at our VP centers in the police stations. But I also need to say that not all our police stations have got VP centers. We are still working on making sure that we get all our police stations having VP centers. So this far for Skukuni, we've got about 14. For Waterberg, we've got 12. For Bembe, we've got 14. And the two shelters that we have are in Mopani, and the other one is in Capricorn. And I think all of you are aware. Okay, I think we're back online. I was saying that we all are aware that in Limpopo, especially Mopani and Bembe region districts, have got very high GBVF cases. And if you look into the news, even this morning, there's issues that are being highlighted. So we are aware as DSD that there's a lot of work that we need to do. And so we have been working with Department of Public Works and Road Infrastructure to get more shelters or houses refurbished so that we can use them for shelters. And we now have the one in Vembe, in Pipidi. We've just got a permission to occupy for that one, so we will start working there very soon. But I must say that it's still an uphill battle here and there, especially with our traditional leaders, so that we get them on board to work with us on some of these things that are there. Going forward, our plan is to make sure that we increase the number of shelters that we have in the province. And part of us doing that, we started partnering with other people outside of government, funders. And I'm happy the presentation in the morning was talking to that. And we got your former Anglo-American Platinum, which is now called Valterra, on board. And they've been doing some work with us in Skukuni area, but now we are moving to Waterberg. And the idea is for them to assist us to empower shelters and VP centers in communities, so that empower them both in skill, knowledge, and also in resources, so that they're able to do the work that they're supposed to do in those communities. So that is ongoing. Presently, they are funding 8 of those organizations in the province, and we would like to increase that number. And part of the reason we're doing this is that we are very aware of the fact that as government, we don't have endless resources. So we don't have money that will cover everything that we want to do, but we also want to make sure that we are able to cover the areas where the need is. And then, yeah, now I'm going to close quickly. You will read in that most of the other stuff that are there. Our future plans, or what we are planning on now, which we want to start in 2026, 27, we have realized in Limpopo that we've got about 3 main issues. One, we've got an issue of child and adolescent pregnancies. We've got an issue of substance abuse. And these two have got a very big impact into our GBVF statistics. And therefore, we've realized as a department that if we are going to be able to deal with this issue adequately, we need to integrate the 3 programs. As it is now, when we talk about child and adolescent pregnancies, is dealt with somewhere else, and the other one is dealt with somewhere else. So we have gotten into an agreement as a department that we are going to dovetail all of them. And we got Department of Health and Education on board. And since December 2024 till now, we have put together 2 strategies that are being monitored by all the stakeholders in JCPS and social cluster. And the strategies, one is on GBVF, how do we manage it better? And the second one is on prevention of child and adolescent pregnancy. And you will realize I'm not calling in teenage pregnancies because we've got 9-year-olds that fall pregnant. And so they're not yet teens, so we need to get them somewhere. So that is what we're going to be focusing on. We'll continue focusing on getting more shelters through Department of Public Works. And we also are aware that our funding model needs some injection. So we need to be getting into discussions with Provincial Treasury and ourselves to see how best we can do that, so that is in the pipeline. We are doing that. In conclusion, I want to just to say thank you to the people that have come on board and assisted us to where we are today. The NPA has been very progressive with us, together with the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. They are our partners in JCPS, so we do a lot of work there. And we have a very good working relationship with SAPS. I'm hoping that next time when we have such an engagement, we will also have SAPS from the provinces so that they can share with us the issues that they deal with. With those many, many words, colleagues, I think I can stop here. Thank you.
Dudu, thank you so much for that honest feedback that you're giving us, because it's stuff that we can relate to. It's issues that many people do have, and the fact that you have a plan, the fact that you see the value of collaborating is a massive, massive step forward for us. And as NSM, we are fully behind you and happy to partner and do whatever it is that we can do to make it easier and better for more people.
Okay. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Bonisi Lepia, the Director for Restorative Services in Mpumalanga. The good thing about speaking last is that you just say, Kilaka lel. Everything has been said, so it's Kilaka, it's mine. All what has been said is, okay, I'll just go straight to the status of shelters in Mpumalanga. Although I feel that I should have also included the Tutuzela centers, because we do have Tutuzela centers and victim-friendly rooms in the police stations in Mpumalanga. We have 19 shelters in Mpumalanga, of which 2 are government managed. With them, and also then we also have 3 centers that are also responsible for referrals to the shelters. They provide one night service, then they refer to shelters. I'm glad that also in our midst we have the manager for Listening Shelter in Kangala. With our province, we've also managed to employ social workers in all our centers, as well as social auxiliary workers in all the centers. It's not employed by DSD. We are funding, I have to correct that word. We are funding the posts, and we are also funding the program within the facilities, not just the posts of social workers and auxiliary workers. Then we also fund the program. The shelters accommodate both males and females, of which it has been also indicated by our national office. It was a finding that we should be having a shelter for males only, not include them in our shelters that are currently existing. So Mpumalanga is funding shelter movement, because with all you've heard all our provinces talking about the lack of supervision within the shelter of supervisors in the shelters. With us, we went a step further to fund shelter movement, to employ social work managers to provide supervision for the social workers in the shelters, because we know for a fact that really we cannot employ social workers in a shelter and then there's no supervision. And what we've realized is also the founders, most of them are not social workers by profession. Hence the reason for Mpumalanga to fund posts for social work managers in shelter movement. The province has made the pronouncement by the president that we have to have 2 shelters per district. For us, we have more than 2 shelters per district. We've got 3 districts, but we went further to have a shelter per municipality. Some of the municipalities has more than 2 shelters, depending on the vastness of the area. And sometimes, as much as we want to do good, sometimes it comes with the challenge that we've got so many shelters, because we will discover that some they will go empty for the whole month or for the whole quarter. We'll have 1 person, and is it value for money? So, but you know, with GPV, it goes with the seasons, ne? So you cannot say we are going to close because for this quarter, this shelter didn't have people. We currently have no Kuselega in Mpumalanga, but we are hoping to establish one with the shelter, with the structures that has been donated by TPWI. But the catch with these structures is that most of them are dilapidated and they need to be demolished and rebuilt. So it's not as good as they show in pictures that this is what we are giving you. You know, sometimes a house, you can look at the structure outside, but you know, with vandalism, it goes deeper than the bricks outside. When you go inside, it's worse than you see on the picture. So we have that relationship, although we cannot cry foul to say everything is not well, but there are other structures that are good, that are good to go. It needs some renovations here and there. We need money to renovate those structures, and we didn't budget. We were hoping that DPWI will be here, because initially when they engaged the National Department, they promised to renovate the structures and then give to the Department of Social Development. But now they reneged on their agreement. We have to renovate those structures, and it's not gonna be something that we're gonna do next week or next month. We've got 5 shelters in Mpumalanga that has been accredited for trafficking in persons, to accommodate victims of trafficking in persons. And you know, with Mpumalanga, we've got borders. We are surrounded by borders, Mozambique and Swaziland. With these borders, we've got, and now, especially the one from Mozambique, our border from Mozambique is very porous. So we accommodate a number of persons who are suspected. And we even go further to deploy social workers at the borders during the festive season. So from the 15th, our social workers will be at the border to curb the issue of children being brought into the country or taken out of the country without meeting the criteria to cross the border. So this is what we do as in Mpumalanga. So they are there 24/7, although it's not a permanent, but we target the 2 seasons, that is the Easter as well as the festive season. The bed capacity, we've got the total bed capacity in our province is 170 for all the shelters. If you want to know which facility has got what bed capacity, it's there, but I'm not going to talk to each and every one. As I've indicated, we've got 12 facilities in Ehlanzeni, in terms of funding. Ne? Garisibande is 8, Nkangala is 5. That's why I've been saying per municipality, we've got a shelter. It's not as, you know, there are challenges wherever there's a shelter and not shelter, infrastructure from government as well as NPOs. They need money to operate. Hence, the allocation for for the financial year, we had an allocation of 27,095,000. So this is all the money that went to all on GPV in Mpumalanga, funding organizations for GPV. So there's no organization that is receiving less than 1 million. Hence, you see this big amount. The challenge, it's not, you might clap hands, but it's not enough if you look at the work that goes in there, because they are providing psychosocial services. They are also rendering awareness campaigns, but unfortunately, we cannot go beyond what we have and ask for more, but they do their best at what we've allocated to them. So this is what and every time when you go there, they will say, Sisiboni, we don't have enough, but what can we do? This is the fiscus of government. The purse is shrinking. That's what we always say to everybody in the province. We're doing our best. In terms of infrastructure, I've already talked to it, but DSD will have to provide for the budget for the renovation of our structures that are donated by DPWI and to the NPO. Then there's a late payment of subsidies. I know it has been an outcry in the province that we are paying late. However, we've developed a strategy. I've heard even on the first day to say the first 3 months of the financial year, it's when they are struggling. Social workers don't get paid on time. Yes, I do acknowledge that as a province, but we are doing our best to make sure that our organizations do receive money before the end of the second quarter. But currently, what we have, the department has developed a strategy to ensure that NPOs are given priority in terms of payment before we disperse any funds that are allocated to the province. So even the late, because we normally do quarterly payments, quarterly tranche. That is the first 2 weeks of the quarter. We are expecting their claims to be in. So this is, if you didn't submit your claim in the first 2 weeks of the quarter, then you must be aware that you'll get your payment late. So this is what the strategy says, that first two weeks, you'll get paid if you submit your claims on time, because sometimes the claims comes in, they've got problems or challenges. We have to send them back to be corrected. Hence, the strategy now is clear to say those who have submitted, then we'll be paying them. Even next financial year, we'll do our best. We promise, we has committed to say in the first quarter, once we get money from Treasury, then we'll be paying in the first quarter, not in the second quarter, as we've been doing in the past. And we've got a commitment from the Treasury, provincial Treasury, to say money will be in the purse of DSD in the first quarter, unless the budget has been approved on time. This year there were delays, and the inadequate accredited shelters to accommodate victims of human trafficking. This one, it's a bit of a challenge, because you will say this person has been trafficked only to discover that the person, the people who are coming from outside the country, they know our policies and acts very well than us in South Africa. They know the loopholes of our acts and policies, and they know how to exploit them. The person will be saying, I've been trafficked, whereas the person is illegal, it's an illegal immigrant. So this is what we've discovered, to say the person will come in and say, I'm trafficked, and they know that they will be getting a shelter, food, until they run away from the shelter. Because that's what they do. They run away from the shelters, they disappear, because it's as much as they are accredited, but it's a home away from home. It's not a prison where there are guards outside the gates and who are carrying guns. So I think all in all, this is our state of Mpumalanga province. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. That was really informative. And also getting some feedback on what on acknowledging what the development areas are and how you're going to how you're planning to improve them. Thank you very much for that. I've got bad news and I've got good news and good news. What would you like to hear first? The bad news is that we are not going to break for tea. The good news is that there is water and nice sweeties to keep your energy up on the table. And then the other good news is that I'm going to invite up Pastor Justice Pitso to come and do his presentation on the trafficking in persons. I saw so many words jump out at me on this page that I thought I'd have to read some of it. That he's a dedicated financial advisor and facilitator. And he is committed to advancing the administering sports, art and culture within public ordinary schools. That's a passion of mine as well. Educating individuals and families on financial literacy in South Africa. We don't have financial literacy. People don't understand saving. People don't understand paying back and what the implications are when you don't pay back. And so financial literacy is of a primary concern. And then also leading initiative designed to reduce substance abuse, teenage, adolescent pregnancies, and engaging learners in positive and creative activities. We raise so much awareness in schools about GBVF. These children already know. It's their daily lived experience. And so we also have to make space for creative activities and for just giving them a space to be themselves and to be children. That's just something that I wanted to add. So Pastor, you reflect a strong commitment to education, leadership development, and social responsibility, and the values that continue to inspire positive transformation, irreversible transformation, as I was saying, in South Africa's youth and society at large. So welcome to the stage. I can't see you because I've got this bright spotlight on me. My apologies, Pastor, if nobody informed you about the good news and the good news and the bad news. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My apologies. I thought my time would be after the tea time. No, it's okay. My name is Impo Justice Pitso, and I am the founder of an organization called YDPSA, which is Youth Development Program South Africa. So what we do, we are trying to administrate sports, arts and culture in our public ordinary schools. The main goal is to reduce the substance abuse and teenage pregnancy. And I'm very glad to hear that Mpumalanga, as she has mentioned, that they are that. So from today, I learned not to call it teenage pregnancy. I think it's Limpopo, ne? It's Limpopo. I learned from today that it's not a teenage pregnancy. It's adolescent or girls, you know, child pregnancy. Ne? Yeah. Okay, having said that, I would like to say it is truly an honor to stand before you today. And I would like to start by extending my heartfelt gratitude to the National Shelter Movement team for this important platform and for the remarkable work you continue doing in protecting and empowering the vulnerable in our society. Now, I also wish to acknowledge and greet all the representatives from the various departments and organizations present here today. Your collective commitment and presence are deeply appreciated. Now, as we gather to discuss the serious and heartbreaking issue of child trafficking, it is also important to remember that November is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Now, this serves as a reminder that healing, compassion, and emotional well-being are essential in building safer communities. Now, essentially for our children. Now, when we support the mental health of our men and boys, we continue to breaking cycles of violence and foster families that nurture rather than harm. Now, I want to thank you once again for this opportunity, and I look forward to engage meaningfully as we together end the child trafficking and safeguard every child's rights to safe and dignified life. So today, I'll be presenting on trafficking of girls in South Africa. I believe that most of us, we know that it is affecting our society. You know, so many things are happening, and we hear of a lot of sad stories when it comes to our girl children. So now, the purpose and objective, I will speak up about the raising of the awareness about ukuthwala and trafficking of girls in South Africa. I will try to touch and explain on the legal frameworks and protection mechanisms, and then I will as well present the drives, the recent incidents, and the community impacts, how we as community contribute positively and negatively in this. Now, and then fourthly, I will touch on the prevention and the intervention and the recommendations from various stakeholders. Now, number one, what is ukuthwala? It's a Zulu word, or rather it's a traditional term that is often translated as the bride capture of forced marriages. I believe that most of us, we are aware of that and we are familiar with it. Now, and this can involve abduction, can involve coercion or arrangement, okay, or, arrangement of underage marriage where consistent is absent. It may amount in abduction, kidnapping, rape, or trafficking. Okay, let me see. Oh, okay. So I can use that, ne? Okay, thank you. Let me. Okay, thank you very much. I think now you can hear me well, ne? Okay, so now, when we speak about the trafficking of the trafficking of girls, what is it that we are referring to? We are referring to, number one, the recruitment and the transporting, the transferring, the harboring, or the receipt of persons by means of force, fraud, acquisitions for exploitation. Girls are trafficked for sexual exploitation, forced labors, and abuse. Now, trafficking and forced marriages can overlap. Now, years back, I think it was 2015, I had a program that I was doing in Vereeniging. So we were trying to, I believe when I speak about Vereeniging, you will relate to this, that prostitution was very high then. It was very high. Like Vereeniging was one of the places where if you speak of Vereeniging, then you know there's a whole lot of prostitution that is happening. I believe most of us, we relate that in 1 year somewhere, the houses were burnt down, you know, people were chased out of the houses and all that, because those houses were used for prostitution. Now, speaking of how it happens, one time I sat down and then I said, we are trying to take these kids out of the street, but how about we try and find out from them, how did it happen that they end up here and why they are here? You'll be surprised to find out that most of them, it wasn't their plan for them to be there. Some of them, it's due to other things that I will touch on later on in the presentation, which can be the economic factors that affect us. So years back then, we tried to find out from them and say, okay, guys, why are you here? What has pushed you this far? And how can we help you now to be out of the situation that you are in? The other lady approached him and said, as far as I wish to be here, there is drugs involved. What had happened is that I was invited by a friend who said to me, come, let's go to this and that place to have fun. And then she says, I came here to have fun, but I didn't know that I was actually trafficked to be here in this place. So she explained to me and say, the first thing that they do is when you arrive, they'll give you a drug, but you are not aware. And that is the kind of drug that you can get from them. So she says, now, no matter how far you can run from them, you find yourself going back to them because your body needs that drug. So she said to me, I've had many people who come and say, can we help you? And I said, yes, I want help. I went to shelters. I've been in churches, people trying to help me. But at the end of the day, it fails. Why? Because of the type of a drug that they put in my system. Now, having said that, I want to say to all of us here, it is real. It is happening. The other time I was driving from, what is this place? It's in Free State, Bethlehem. And then I met this gentleman. You know, there's a lot of hitchhiking happening that side. You know, if you're from Free State, you'll relate. So now I drove with this man. He said to me, can you wait for me for 2 minutes? There's someone that I'm waiting for. And he kept calling, he kept calling, he kept calling. And then I ended up asking, but who are you waiting for? He said, no, let's go, my brother. He was from Nigeria. He said, no, let's go, don't worry. And then I asked him as we drive, because it's a very long distance, like 2 hours drive. And then I asked him, so the lady that you went to see, what really happened? Why are you here? Or why you left her? Is she not going to be? I thought maybe it's his girlfriend. And then the guy said, no, I just went there for a weekend to spend some time with her, but now we're supposed to travel back together to Vereeniging. Now I said, okay, fine. So on the phone, he was talking to others, busy saying, no, you must force her to eat, because if she can't eat, she's not going to be able to work. Now I'm now putting 1 + 1 together to say, okay, fine. So meaning this guy went there to collect the lady who was supposed to come to work where in Vereeniging, but in the image that he loves her. So I want to say to us, it is real, it is happening. So that's what I refer to when I speak about recruiting. They don't take themselves there, but in most cases, they are recruited. There's no girl who can wake up saying, I want to be this, or I want to be trafficked for that. It's not only for prostitution. One friend of mine was a maxi taxi driver. He said, dude, at night, if you can see, I see that you are busy with these programs, but if you can see at night what happens, there are transactions, money, exchange. I would be told to go collect that lady from there and drop her there. When I drop her there, I'll come back with money, because that's the transaction that happens. So it is very sad to see that is happening in our societies. Now, we know of our legal frameworks that every time you need to go and report this and report that. But I want to say to all of us here, it's important for us as well to well educate ourselves, because you walk into the police station or wherever to say, I came to report such a case. But if you don't have enough information or the knowledge. Maybe the person who's over the counter as well doesn't have the similar knowledge. So it's important for us as the society as well, not to only put our trust in our SAPS or any other source of assistance, but to equip ourselves to go to them, not to say, solve this problem, but to say to them, we are here as well to help you to solve this problem that is faced by the society. I don't know if we are following in that. Now, you need to know the criminal laws, the sexual offense related matters, and then the child protection law. I believe most of us, we do that. We need to as well familiarize ourselves with the national plans, the SAPS, anti-trafficking units, all, like everything. As NPOs, it is our responsibility to make sure that we equip ourselves in such matters. Now, the recent content, I believe that most of us, we've heard of the high profile of the trafficking cases, the one of Jocelyn Smith. I think that serves as, you know, one of the best examples from what I've just told you, that these girls, they don't say, I want to be trafficked. Remember now in the case, it was believed that her mom was the cause of that. Her mom maybe exchanged that child in exchange of money or anything. I can't at this stage prove that. I can't at this stage say, yes, it was true. I can't at this stage say, yes, this is what she did or this is what happened. Now, allow me now to speak to you about, I see there in your thing, my brother, it doesn't, yeah, the slide, no, I want the drives and the risk factors. I think in the screen there, it's blank. Now, the drives, as I said, that there are things that will contribute to this. Number one will be poverty and economy vulnerability. Number two, obvious, the traditional practices. Ugutwala, in most cases, is when that young girl is forced to be with that old man, maybe for other ritual purposes and all that. So that as well is a contributing factor. And the lack of access to education. As I said, that we as NPOs, it's our responsibility to equip ourselves so that we can equip others. I normally say, you can teach your kids what you know. And if you know nothing, it means you will teach them nothing. And then the lack of access to education, social services, and reporting channels. That's where I come in and say, we should equip ourselves, because sometimes what we have in our country, it's not enough. But we can do something as NPOs to say, okay, we'll stand in the gap. And then another contributing factor will be the gender equality, or I mean the gender inequality, the substance abuse and weak law enforcement in rural, now I'll say, and urban pockets. So in rural areas, we'll know that the police station is too far for one to go and report, you know, and sometimes you see police after a very long time because you are there in the rural. But unfortunately, even now here, our very police are the ones who are involved in transporting these girls. Are the ones, I don't know if you heard of the case of, I think it's JMPD, who were transporting the soil from the mine. I think you heard of that. And then the SAPS, they came, it was the SAPS that they were transporting, and the JMPD came to arrest them. Imagine, with the state vehicle. So how many more things are happening? I have heard, I haven't seen, but I have heard of people who say there are police who are actually involved in this trafficking. They will go and take this lady and go to drop her in a certain area. So that as well, it's a drive factor. Now this, it has an impact on girls and families and the communities. Now, how does it impact these girls? How does it impact us as the community? Number one, the loss of education. That child won't have an opportunity to maybe have access to education. It increased the health as well risks, especially when it comes to sexual health, and then the psychological trauma and the social stigma. Now, this as well, it will have an impact on the girls and the families in such a way that it can become an intergenerational cycle of poverty and vulnerability, and the community destabilization as well. So having said that, let's speak of what we need now, because I believe that most of the things that I say here, we relate to and we know of such. But now, how do we prevent that as at the community level? It's what I spoke about, the community education. I believe that if we can come up with the strategies with YDPSA, we are planning now for year 2026 and 2027 to come up with the drives in schools to raise awareness. I know that we have it in communities where we will be raising substance abuse awareness, you know, children pregnancy awareness and all that. Now, I'm sitting with my team to say, let's come up with a drive, especially for a girl child, but mainly I would like the drive to focus on the male child. Sorry, I said for a girl child, but I want the drive to focus more on the male child, because 80% or 90% of perpetrators are males. Yet we are fighting so hard to protect the victims. I don't know if I'm making sense. We are doing everything to protect the girl child, but we don't teach a male child as well how to protect this girl child and how to not become a perpetrator or a contributor to this that affects our society. So now, the community education, it is very much important. You as an NPO to initiate as well and say, okay, fine, as an NPO from the level where I am, this is what I will do to the community. Let me at least educate the girl child to say, this is how trafficking starts. I remember the collaboration between Tosunga Baninga and YDPSA was one of those that we want to go to this res, you know, the student res, to raise an awareness to say, listen, this is how it all starts. It's the first message that leads to the other. It's the first invitation that leads to maybe being kidnapped or something. You remember the story of Olerato? The guy called and said, no, I'm coming to see you. And the guy picked her up. That is how it all starts. I meet many girls that I would ask, now, how did you know this guy? No, we met on social media and we went out on a date. That's the main problem that we are facing as well. No matter how hard we are trying to prevent it, until we teach them to say, listen, don't fall for it easily. Don't just accept the invitation and say, yeah, I'll go with you in that. Maybe it's a nicer restaurant. I don't know here which mall, but that side they like your main lane mall. Come, let's meet on main lane. You know, and then everyone, and that's where it all starts. Because number one, some of them, they don't know the person that they are meeting. They met on social media. Maybe the picture the person sent, it's not even his own picture. So she doesn't necessarily know who she's meeting. And the girls, they will say, but how are we going to be married now if we don't go on the... There's a better way to approach it. So now I'm coming to you to say, in the community level, we can always try to bring that education to them and teach them. Let's come up with different, strategies to teach them, to educate them, but don't forget the boy child, because he is always the perpetrator. Now, the economic empowerment as well for the vulnerable families. Remember that an empty stomach has the ability to affect your way of thinking. If she sees food, if she sees a breakthrough, she will definitely go for it. Now, we can always teach them as well. Listen, There's nothing we can do about our unemployment rate and all that. But we can always try to work around it and say, as a girl child, listen, do something. Don't depend on a man. You teach them not direct, but indirectly, so to say, don't depend on men, because at the end of the day, she will depend on that man, and that man will kidnap her. And then what? We are sitting with another problem again. And then the early warning systems as well. It would be nice for I think the social development and SAPS and other departments as well to consider maybe coming up with such strategies to say, okay, this is maybe like the early prevention or the warning system that we have come up with. We know that it can't stop it, but at least it can reduce it. Now, engaging as well with the traditional leaders to reform harmful practices and promote consent, that will help us to prevent it as well in the community level. Now, the responses and protection measures, now let us strengthen the child protection services and victim center policies. Let us let us open at least an easy access to shelters, to the counseling. I know from where I stand, I have schools in Everton. It's a challenge to have, people who will go and sit with kids and counsel them, especially those who become rape victims and that. So it's a challenge to have, social workers who will go and give the counseling and all that. It's one of the challenges that we are facing now. It would be very much helpful to have access to such, the legal assistance as well, and the healthcare for the survivors. Now, the prosecution of perpetrators and improved conviction rates, I think that is what we all wish for, to say, he did this, she did this, but at the end of the day, they will decide and say, no, we'll give the person 5 years imprisonment. But remember, that girl child or that boy child, the mind is damaged forever. So that has to be considered as well. And then the cross-border cooperation for trafficking investigations as well, it needs to be considered. My recommendations for the schools, it will be to implement awareness and reporting programs for safe space for girls. For the NGOs, will be to fund seek funding or fund the community outreaches, economic support, and survivor services. Then for the government, it will be to strengthen legislation, increase prosecutions, and resources for child protection unit. And then for all of us, the stakeholders, it is to collect better data and monitor the progress. So this is where I took my resources and references, and then that will be all from me. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mpho. Everybody still. Ooh. Is this working now? Thank you very much, Mpho. Is everybody still alive, awake, breathing? Do you need to stand up and do a star jump or anything? All okay for us to carry on? Thank you so much. I wanted to make a point that whether we agree with it or not, prostitution is a job. It's a service. It's the oldest profession in the world. Many prostitutes will tell you that it provides them with an income. It provides them to be able to educate their children. Of course, it's not ideal. But research has shown that 98% of women will resort to prostitution as a way to feed and look after themselves and their families. So prostitution is so different to trafficking. Trafficking, people are denied their choice, they're denied their freedom, and they're denied access to their to financial freedom. So thank you very much. That was very informative. I think on our watch, each of us, it's all of our responsibility to familiarize ourselves with what the legislation is around this, to take personal responsibility about that, about educating ourselves, educating our children, and making children feel safer. I don't know, I find our Indabas are so real and raw, but they also leave us, a lot of us petrified. But in fact, there are lots of safe spaces, safe homes in communities where children can go and play and can go when they feel that they are being groomed or lured away from their family or their community. So thank you very much. That was a very informative presentation, which I would love us to have a copy of all the presentations today so that we can put them together. I would now like to invite, I think, Maki, Kathleen, and Lorato to do the presentation on the state of shelters in their provinces. Welcome to the stage. And then Sindisiwe will be taking over for me with some more bad news and good news, but I'll leave that to her. Anybody else joining us?
Okay.
Okay.
It's fine.
No.
So this moving forward, this would
Green. Okay.
Good day, colleagues. My name is Maki Kamkana. I'm from the Free State Province. I'm just going to give you a brief on the status of shelters in the Free State. I'll just pass that slide. Free State Province has five districts, namely Mangaung Metro, Thabo Mofusanyana, Lejwe Leputswa, Fezile Dabi, and Harib district. And the province has 6 shelters and 1 safe house. Mangaung Metro has 1 shelter, which is located in Vepenar, and 1 safe house located in Botshabelo. Thabo Mofusanyana has 2 shelters, 1 in Kwakwa and 1 in Bethlehem. Lejwe Leputswa has 1 shelter, which is located in Velkom. Fezile Dabi has 1 shelter located in Sosolbek. Harib district has 1 shelter located in Kofifontein. Under Mangaung, the shelter is called Community Welfare Services, which is located in the town of Vepenar, next to the border of Lesotho. The bed capacity for the shelter is 12. The staff complement of the shelter is a manager and 2 house mothers. Currently, they do not have a social worker. Sitshabelo Safe House is the only safe house in the province and is located in the township of Botshabelo. The bed capacity is 14. The staff complement, they have a shelter manager who's also a social worker, admin clerk, 2 house mothers, and a general worker. Thabo Mofusanyana, we have Tusanang shelter, which is located in Kwakwa, with a bed capacity of 14. The staff complement, they have a shelter manager who's also a social worker, admin clerk, and 2 house mothers. And then we have Tepo ya Rona shelter, which is in Bethlehem. The bed capacity is 15. And the staff is as follows: the shelter manager, who's also a social worker, 2 house mothers, admin clerk, and a general worker. The shelter accommodates the victims and their children, and also the members of the LGBTQAI+. Tshepo ya Rona is also accredited to accommodate victims of human trafficking. Lejweli Puswa district, we have Goldfield Family Advice, Yamesara, which is located in Velcom. The bed capacity is 40. The staff complement, there's a shelter manager, but the shelter does not have a social worker, 2 house mothers, bookkeeper, social auxiliary worker, and general worker. The shelter accommodates victims and their children and the members of the LGBTQIA+, and the shelter is accredited to accommodate victims of human trafficking. Fezile Davi, we have Curious Movement Shelter, which is located in the town of Sosolbek, and their bed capacity is 8. The staff complement, they have a shelter manager, they don't have a social worker. The house mother, 2 house mothers, admin clerk, and general worker. The shelter accommodates the victims and their children. The shelter is provisionally accredited to accommodate victims of human trafficking. Kusela Divine Shelter is located in Koffiefontein in Kharib district. The bed capacity is 10. The staff complement, they have a shelter manager who's also a social worker, 2 house mothers, admin clerk, and general worker. The shelter accommodates the victims and their children and also members of the LGBTQA+. With the structure, our shelters, all the 6 shelters and 1 safe house are equipped with CCTV cameras, perimeter wall, and electric fence. They have solar panels installed in 5 shelters and 1 safe house. The shelter in Kwakwa, the service provider is busy with the installation of the solar panel and the inverter. All shelters and safe house have JoJo tanks for water, and also they have generators. The structure is of bricks and mortar, and also they have a prefab structure on the premises. The 5 shelters and 1 safe house have skills development program in place, and Kharib is in the process of procuring equipment for their skills development. With regard to the skills development, I would like just to mention that Goldfield Family Advice, they have a good relationship with Goldfield TVET College, where their survivors or victims are provided with your hairdressing and your nail tech courses and computer courses. The only challenge that we have in the Free State, we do not have a shelter for men. We also do not have a Kuseleka one-stop center. We are in the process of identifying a building where we can establish a Kuseleka one-stop center. I think I'll end there. Thank you.
Maki, thank you so much for that succinct report back. I'd like to invite Kathleen from the Northern Province, Northern Cape, sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kathleen Bentham. I'm from the Northern Cape, responsible for victim empowerment services. Presentation is to present the current status of our shelters in the Northern Cape and highlight the key challenges and possible recommendations. As As a province, you can move the slides. Oh. Okay. Maybe just to say presentation layout, and then we'll move to the purpose. I've already touched on that. And then we'll move to the 5 districts within the Northern Cape. The Northern Cape has 5 districts, namely your Namakwa district, ZF Mugao district, John Taule Gauthiwe district, Pixley Kaseme, and then also our Francis Bart district. The shelters are as follows in the 5 districts, and then they have the following bed capacity. In the Namakwa district, we have currently 1 shelter that has a bed capacity of 12. In ZF Mugao district, we have our Princess Pofadder, Popanang Safe House, as well as our Postmansburg shelter. Bed capacity is indicated. In our Francis Bart district, we have our Ritchie shelter, as well as our Kimberley shelter that in total has a bed capacity of 13. Pixley Kaseme, we have Etimbeni Community Center with a bed capacity of 14, and then also our Colesburg shelter with a bed capacity of 5. In John Taule Gauthiwe district, we don't have a shelter as a province. We have White Door, Bankara Badulong White Door, with a bed capacity of 3. Later on in my presentation, I will speak to this district. I just want to give you an overview of our shelter intakes within the last 2 quarters. You will see that our shelter intakes is not very high. For the first quarter, we had a total intake across our province of 58. And then in the second quarter, we had an intake of 49 victims of gender-based violence that were accommodated in our shelters. We are currently struggling with our Ritchie shelter with admissions, and then also with our Postmansburg shelter. But at the same time, for us as a province, it's good that we don't have victims that actually needs sheltering services. So it means somehow we are doing something right. Then the overview and staff complement. Northern Cape has a total of 8 shelters and 1 wide door. We have a total bed capacity of 64. And then 1 district, as I've mentioned, which is John Taule Gauthiwe district, don't have a shelter at this stage, but we do have a wide door to accommodate if there is a victim of gender-based violence. As a province, we are also in a process of establishing a shelter within this district. We already are in consultation with Public Works. We've done a site assessment to a possible house that they want to donate to us. But as all the previous speakers indicated, the houses that we get from Public Works is really in a very bad state. So being proactive as a province, we've consulted with Asmang Mine to assist us with the renovations. We still await feedback from them. If that doesn't materialize, myself already spoke to Mr. Faltain. Maybe then we can tap into the EU or the CARA funding in this regard. Then an NGO of the area approached us to operationalize this project in this district, and then we are still in an engagement phase in this regard. Also to mention, 107 victims were accommodated for the first 2 quarters of this financial year. 7 shelters are government managed and operationalized through our district goods and services budget, and 1 is managed by or operationalized by Etimbeni Community Care Center, which is in the R. Then our shelter staff at our shelters consist of since it's managed from our district goods and services budget, it's managed by our social work supervisor responsible for victim empowerment services, our social worker, house parents, and then also our gardener. Etimbeni Community Center as a social worker, and then also house mothers. We fund Etimbeni to operationalize the shelter in the Pixley Kaseme district. One of our shelters is accredited as a trafficking in person shelter in the province, and we already identified another shelter which will be accredited in the new financial year. As a province, we don't have a Kusaleka care center at this stage, but the province are in the process of establishing the Kusaleka one-stop center, and the province is in consultation with Public Works for suitable accommodation. We received suitable accommodation. It was first for 3 towns, and then I've made a presentation to my seniors, which then said that maybe we must look for, they have their reasons why we must rather take this rather big project to another area. We also, as a province, we have 72 victim empowerment ambassadors. That is our link between community and services, be it sheltering services or any other service that the victim or survivor might need it. And they are placed at police stations across the province. And then with this initiative, we want to prevent any victim falling through the cracks, because you will also know that there's always a difference between our stats and the stats that's coming from SAPS. So that's why, as an initiative from our department, we just want to try and close that gap. Then when it comes to infrastructure and security audit was conducted at all shelters, and specifications were provided to upgrade the security measures, your CCTV cameras, your solid fence, electric fence, etc. This is part of our improvement plan. We're already working on after our monitoring visit we had early this year. Due to water challenges in the province, JoJo tanks were procured for shelters to ensure water supply for victims. The Department of Social Development in the Northern Cape was also approached by SCB, and we partnered with them, and they've adopted 3 shelters, and they are providing materials support and assisting with infrastructure upgrade needs. They've adopted our 1 shelter in Kimberley, 1 in Uppington, and then also our Etimbeni Community Center in the R. Department is also in the process to start a partnership with Kangnas wind farm to assist also with infrastructure issues, because there's always a lot of money going in when you have to do renovations, when you have to put up a solid wall, etc., for our shelter in the Namakwa district. Continuous maintenance of our shelters are essential, and currently we are focusing on Princess Pofadder and Colesburg with major renovations. If we speak to skills development, as all provinces mentioned, skills development is high up on the agendas because we want to break the cycle of abuse. The department is currently in the process of establishing skills development hubs within our shelters. We've identified for now Colesburg Shelter, Kimberley, Princess Pofadder, Bopanang, and Namakwa Shelter, and renovations are also underway in this regard. We've procured some equipment like sewing machines, overlockers, you name it, computers, tables, chairs, gardening tools, etc. Also, we want to send our house mothers on training, on basic computer training, and then also sewing, so that there is a informal impart of skills from the house mother to the victim and the survivors. Also, social welfare services partnered with Program 5, which is Women Development, to enroll our victims and our survivors in skills development programs. With that initiative, that is being done outside the shelter setup. We've partnered with Department of Economic Development and Tourism, and then also with Department of Sports, Arts and Culture in these initiatives. Also, we provide starter packs as part of the program on completion of the skills program. Success with this is that survivors are absorbed in economic opportunities. For example, your cooking, your data capturing, security, and therefore we comply with Pillar 5 of the NSP. This is just a few that I'm mentioning now. Then if we, just to touch on briefly on the challenges as a province, all mentioned, budget constraints. So we really, the budget that we're having, that we really have to work with it so that we can at least cover or we prioritize what we want to do. So like I've indicated that now we are prioritizing 2 shelters with major renovations that is also very long overdue. A challenge also for the Northern Cape is lack of suitable infrastructure. Buildings that we receive are really in a very bad state, and that is why we try to, smear partnerships where we can to assist, and then DSD will come on board with refurbish the house, and then operationalize the project, and then also sustain the project. Also, as a province, we struggle with mismanagement of funding by NGOs. You'll notice that all our shelters are government managed, since we provide a fully furnished house, funding, etc. And then, at some stage of the term, then we have to end our relationship. Skills development and linking victims and survivors to job opportunities. There are just not enough available, and you cannot link each and every survivor with opportunity. So we really try as a province, and that's why our social workers, they are taking initiative to to contact the local shops like your USafe and your ShopRite, etc., etc. Just if there are opportunities, maybe just to also inform us, and then we can make sure that the CV and everything of the survivor is in good order to be submitted, and then also assist in preparation for the interview, etc., etc. That is in a nutshell from the Northern Cape. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. It was very informative, and I like the fact that when I look at what you've written down as challenges, they're actually also opportunities after all the information that we've gathered over these last 2 days. So thank you very much, ladies. And now I have good news and good news. I'm going to invite our last 2 speakers who will be very brief. And then the best news is that we are running well. We're doing very well on time. And the greatest news is after that, we'll have lunch. So I'd like to just introduce Bernadine. Most people know who Bernie is. But she's an advocate in the High Court of South Africa who has been involved in Okay, I'm just following my instructions. Okay, we're having a stretch break if you'd like to just stand up and stretch your legs. I'm so glad that I'm the treasure chest of information today, Bernadine. Usually I don't know what's going on. So Bernadine, if most people know who she is, glasses again. No, she's gone to fetch Cindy, I think. So Bernadine is an advocate in the High Court of South Africa, and she's been involved in protecting women and children's rights throughout her career as an advocate, both in private practice and as a family advocate. She served as a senior family advocate for the Cape Peninsula for many years and was appointed as the director of the Sarki Bartman Center in January 2018. She serves on the executive committee of the NSM and is the president of the Western Cape chapter of Soroptomistus International. Now I'm learning a new word. You'll have to tell us what that is. I know Soro must have something to do with sisters. And then also Griselda Kutsia-Groenewald. Griselda finished her BA. Griselda, am I surprising you too? We're busy with our wrap-up, everybody. So she started working with for Gauteng DSD in 1996 in the Ekurhuleni region. She has experience in many fields of social work: statutory services, adoption, substance abuse, probation services, restorative justice, intermediary services, school social work, employee wellness programs, something we don't talk about enough, and VEP. She's done courses in restorative justice, intermediary services, school social work, and employee wellness programs. She has worked in the government sector, NGO sector, and private sector during her 26 years as a social worker. It's her privilege to work at the GBV Command Center, and she believes that she's very lucky to have gained experiences of the different fields in social work. I agree with you. And different environments, and this has given her knowledge to assist herself and to deliver quality service. Her passion is victim empowerment and probation services. Welcome, ladies. Thank you. We're looking forward to the wrap up.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was a surprise. One of the presentations was cancelled and I wasn't told. So I was expecting us to have another presentation in between. Wow, I can't believe it. We're actually standing here and we're wrapping up 3 days of incredible insights, incredible experiences, a lot of joy and quite some pain. The theme of the 5th NSM Shelter Indaba was sheltering and beyond, building bridges of prevention and intervention. There were a number of themes that ran throughout all of the presentations and all the workshops. Building bridges. The bridges being built in our themes spoke to our very first theme that came out again and again, and that is the power and opportunity that lies in collaboration and partnership. Here we saw the work being done by the Department of Social Development, one of our partners, in their provincial feedback sessions. All of the feedback sessions showed the importance being placed by the DSD on the extension of shelter services to all communities. Feedback sessions also recognize the need to support men survivors of gender-based violence by establishing men's shelters, and as well as the feedback sessions all spoke to compliance and the challenges being experienced on both sides in compliance. We saw that we need to examine ourselves when we build bridges. In the workshop on the LGBTIQ+ community and sheltering, where we were invited to examine our language, our assumptions, and our prejudices. The second theme that ran like a red thread throughout the sessions was that of funding. We heard today in an excellent presentation from representatives from the private sector of our need to evolve when it comes to how we think about funding. Our need to reframe, our need to employ entrepreneurial thinking when we approach funders and donors. Funding was also touched on in the Action Learning GBV Shelter Leadership Model workshop, which emphasized our need to strengthen organizational functioning in shelters, which obviously is directly correlated to our ability to seek funding. The third theme that ran throughout the last 3 days was that of the power of storytelling. Ms. Nell Louise Pollack of the Safe House Installation Project spoke about her shift from telling stories of pain to telling stories of survival in the project. One of the things that really struck me on the very first day was when she said one of the survivors had said to her, "I am healing out loud because I nearly died in silence." That has been engraved upon my brain. And it's something that motivates every single thing that we do as shelters, is that the need to amplify the voices of survivors, the need to make sure that they don't stand in silence. She spoke to storytelling as activism and storytelling as a bridge. Dorothy had a literal bridge in it. Dorothy spoke to the power of activism and the power of storytelling when we go out into our communities, when we approach our funders with our stories in order to individualize our stories for them. Lana showed us the work that she was doing in both prevention and intervention within her communities. And as I said on Tuesday, I don't think there was anybody in the room that is in sheltering that didn't recognize herself in the work that Lana was doing, but also in her very clear pain at times, in her tribulations, in her frustrations, and in her triumphs. The fourth theme that I identified was that of care. Obviously, that's the work that we do. The work that we do is rooted in care. But we saw it again and again when we spoke about the need to encourage children in play and to do so without judgment in the workshop that dealt with learning for children through play. We saw it today in the cyber violence presentation that revealed an alarming 3.2 million of our South African learners are subjected to bullying daily. We saw it again and again in Dorothy, not only with Lana, but also with the woman that worked with her. And we were reminded of it, and we reminded ourselves of it over the past 3 days when we spoke to wellness, not only of everybody in the room, of the directors, of CEOs, of our partners, of DSD officials, but also our staff that are watching this back in our provinces, the people that are the literal engines that run our shelters. We saw it, wellness being prioritized, being emphasized, being placed at the top of the pyramid. That's me and my sum up. Griselda.
Okay. Let me first put these glasses on, old age. Okay. Colleagues, I think over the second day, we were thinking, how can it get better, And then we started with the second day. And the first presentation that was done by Dr. Anna Mabunda really, I think, blew our minds as well. Because there was I want to say also 3 things that really stood out for me. The one was, yes, funding. And I think that is one thing that we have seen through all 3 days, that this is something that we really need to give attention to. But I've also felt like something that was very positive about the research was that how important role shelters is playing, and that it is a crucial role in the healing for our victims of gender-based violence. Then thirdly, I want to say is the development of a clear orientation program for our residents, for our victims that are coming into the shelters. I think that many times when I've seen now with the monitoring, we look to say, is there introduction, but are we orientating our clients that are coming in? And I think that is something that stick with me to say, I must also look out for that. I think another thing was that the next presentation was the one of losing liberty and life. And that we know firearms are the reason for many deaths of our victims, for our women that are being killed. But that was also one, was the security. We forget, we're thinking, like for me, we're always thinking about police officers, but we're not thinking about our security companies. We are not thinking about armed response. All of those people that are carrying weapons with them, who are they being regulated? And another thing, and I think there's we really need to take hands with Department of Justice and with SAPS when it comes to the enforcement of the court orders. To say this firearm needed to be removed. Was it removed? How can we control that? Because we have seen many times that it didn't happen, and then the end result is that a woman is getting killed by a firearm. So that was for me one of the things that really stood out. And I think that we need to make I want to say like a little thing in our head to say, let us keep reminding of that. And then we went to a proud moment for me, and I think for all of us, when we heard the feedback from our beautiful people that have gone to Australia for a 5th World Conference of Women's Sheltering. And I felt so proud when the feedback came back to say, South Africa is on par. We are doing good. We are stunning, actually. So I think that was for me such a proud moment. And again, last night, when DDG also stated, you know, when they are meeting the internationally, and people are looking up to South Africa to say, you have the best practice model. It was again saying to us, we are doing good. We don't have to feel like this. We can stand up straight. And then we went to the provincial feedback. So colleagues, allow me to, I want to put the two together, the provincial feedback that we receive, as well as the compliance matters, because I think they are very interlinked with one another. And I think one of the things that stood out for me is that all of us need to be accountable in the space that we are. If you are a DSD monitoring official, you need to be accountable. If you are a shelter, NGO, NPO, civil society, you need to be accountable. We need to be accountable for our field where we are. But we also need to involve our other stakeholders, like our Department of Health, our COCTA, to assist and to help us, because that was also the challenges that came up. Department of Public Works, also the challenges that have come up. And I think also we really need to, I want to copy and paste what the lady have said yesterday afternoon. We need to streamline and align our processes, because I think this is so important that if we start with a system, this system needs to be working. The system needs to talk to what we are doing. In the shelter, if you need to hand in things, it needs to work together with that. I also, with the provincial feedback, what was very important for me, I was sitting there and I felt, when I was on probation in 2003, we started with Ikaya Letemba, the whole project. And I was thinking to myself, look how far we have gone. Yes, we do not have shelters, but in all the districts. But when we started this process in 2020, where we were and where we are now, it is amazing to see the growth. We also have seen through the provincial reports is they are really supporting also our shelters. The shelters are finding wonderful ways to do skills development with little money. They are really doing also their part. And you could see the working together of, I want to say DSD and our NPOs, how they work together in a partnership to deliver a quality service to our victims of gender-based violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Griselda. So, yeah, the time has come to actually deal with the resolutions. We gave everybody an opportunity to place what they thought the resolutions for the year ahead of us should be. And there were 5 identified resolutions. What we did this year is we identified a coordinator for each of those resolutions, and we put time periods on them so that they are achievable. First up, by an overwhelming response, we got 7 people actually requested that we do everything in our power as NSM and DSD and other stakeholders to make sure that the 6th World Conference comes to South Africa. And I'm binding it now, it's going to come. So that we put the time period of working on that from now until 2028, and that will be coordinated by the NSM, the Department of Social Development, and corporates, amongst others. The other resolution that was identified was the need for a media campaign that spoke to the struggles of shelters. NSM will coordinate this, and we'll be implementing it in 2026. The third resolution identified was the need for a unified national shelter funding implementation plan, and the need for us to involve both the NSM and DSD as well as corporates in this funding plan. We have identified that it would be coordinated by corporates, National Shelter Movement, the Department of Social Development, and we will implement from next year. Thank you. I'm going to hand over to Griselda.
We only have another 2 resolutions, and I think the one is what I've said. Throughout the conference, it came through that there's a need for a funding model for shelters. So one of the resolutions is that DSD will need to look and work on a funding model. The timeline that has been put here is 2028. So colleagues, I know you're thinking it's 3 years, it's long, but you know how the DSD processes are working. So we also need to ensure. But what we have stated was to say, there will always be feedback given to say, this is what has been done, this is how far it is, to the National Shelter Indaba. Then the last one is the collaboration with government departments like OCTA, like Human Settlement, Department of Public Works, to achieve Pillar 4 goals for 2020-2030. And that will be DSD will coordinate the engagements. But I think what is also very important is that we must also then also look at the Department of Women, because we know the Department of Women is our coordinating department, also to assist us. Then from what we have also said is that these resolutions will be circulated to everyone. But we also want to give the opportunity for colleagues to maybe give extra inputs to, especially maybe for those ones that were listening over YouTube and over older social media, to say, let us give them the opportunity, for everyone the opportunity. You will think that we are nasty, but we think a week is enough time, because we don't want to let it linger. Because at the end of the day, this have come already out of this conference. We already know this is what we want to focus on. But just to make sure, we are going to give this opportunity to ensure that everybody has a last say, maybe, or to add on, or to explain more regarding the resolution, what you want maybe under a certain resolution. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Final wrap up. One thing that we'd like to say to you is DGD last night said, don't give up no matter how hard it gets. And I would like to echo that to all of us. Don't give up. You're selling a precious commodity every single day when you go into work. You're giving people hope, and hope cannot be placed in terms of money. Hope is something that is so fragile, so needed to build our communities, to give the best to our clients. So don't give up, and get out there and make sure that you're selling hope to everybody. Thank you.
I'm back. 2 disclaimers. Number 1, I did start by saying we were just going to go with the flow today. So this can be used as a bookmark, a fan, or you could throw it away. My second disclaimer is I'm just the messenger. So I would like to invite Dr. Zubaida up to the stage and Director Mshlopi. Is he here for a little surprise, it sounds like. You're not all getting cars. I'm not sure what it is. No, you might have to pack your seats on the side. So we'll just wait for them. Okay. Up here? Know who they are?
Yeah, oh, no, we want to make an announcement for all the moderators of all the sessions that are here today. And the ones that are not here, we will be 10 minutes today.
In no particular order.
No.
Okay, so in no particular order, we would like to invite all the moderators who participated in the Indaba to come up and collect a little thank you gift. Where are you? Hurry, hurry. These are lovely. Wow, these are wonderful.
Yes. They are.
Do you want to hand them out? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Who's external? Okay.
So now I have a list. So we have moderators, we have presenters, external
Let's do that
stakeholders.
one. And the external stakeholders are the people that presented today.
Okay, external stakeholders are the people who presented today. And then presenters.
Do it one at a
Okay,
time.
let's do it one at a time. So the presenters, the external stakeholders from today and presenters.
The team from NBI.
Okay, the team from business, the team from NBI. If you've been on the stage today, please come up and collect a gift.
That's way to put it.
And if somebody has left, please, can somebody who knows them come up and collect it, please?
If you've been a stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll take one for the ladies coming to office, but we'll give her one.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. There you go. And then, hello, how are you? Thank you.
Payment stage today.
Hey, I'm telling you.
I like that one.
You've got the list there.
But I
Okay.
find that the list will work.
Anybody else? Let me look around the room. I'm going to have to call you up now.
Anyone that's been on
Oh,
the panel
Or anyone that's been on a panel
in the past 2 days.
in the
from
past
Tuesday.
2 days from Tuesday, please come up and collect a little gift.
I think.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Where the camera is there? What is the camera? Yeah, because it takes a lot for people to prepare.
Yeah, no, I know. What? Oh, yes,
You
a
can.
panel, yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
For Lisa, for 2, 3, 4, so 4. Batsy,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And we must maybe mention that it takes a lot for people to prepare.
Yeah, we realize it takes a lot for people to prepare. So we just wanted to acknowledge your contribution. We know it's a small gift, but at the end of the day, it's a thought. So anybody else that is presented in the panels, please come up. Yes, please come through. The board, the NISA, the NSM board, you've done a sterling job.
We have.
Please come. Let me hand one to you.
Yes, sure. Sure. David's with you here.
Oh, we should have told. We learned. Next time, we won't do that at the World Cup. Fatima, they've given you yours in the got. Janine?
Janine, I gave over, yeah.
Okay.
With Anissa and.
Nell Louise?
Yes, I gave it.
They got, okay. The other panels, there were people on panels. Sarah, yesterday there were panels?
Yeah.
Also, Claudia took the one.
Oh.
Okay. Can the other panelists from the World Conference in Sydney please come up?
Lisa, I can see you.
Should we give the reps and the executives? Or not really?
Next time we can have a drum roll.
I don't know.
Let's cut it so that we don't get a situation where we now don't have enough for everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think,
we've
does
covered-
that cover everybody? Okay. Janine? Have you got? Okay. Mel, so I think the secretariat. The
Oh, yes.
secretariat.
Primary-
The secretariat. I think all members of the secretariat, they've worked incredibly hard. And we want to give them a very warm applause.
Who's team now, Tama?
Who's that?
Is it Tama? Tama? Is it
And Tamara, the note taker.
Yeah, Tamara. Yeah.
And her daughter. Shanta, Muaza, Gladys, Bianca,
How many are there?
the councillors, yes.
Do we have enough though?
Yeah, but the councillors are ones that yeah, we should.
Should have-
Yeah.
should have enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for all the hard work.
Thanks for hard work. Thank you, colleague. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so call Rumesa. She took the pictures, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey, Lungi. And another warm applause for Lungile Sitole. She just passed her exams in social work. So she qualified. She got the results last night. Please.
Okay.
This one, Mara. The councillors came.
Thank
Will
you, the
you
councillors. Will you take for them? Will you take for Road and City?
Yeah,
Okay,
take
thank
for
you.
Rose and Cindy Swar, okay? Because they were.
Yeah.
Tamara and
Okay. Tamara and Emma, please, can you come up too? No, Cindy. Cindy's doing it. Can I also remind people, please, if you could fill in the evaluation form. This is really important for us to improve the Indaba each year. So we'd really appreciate that feedback.
We've got two separate note takers from Shout Out.
Yes.
Yeah.
The two note takers from Shout Out, can you please come up? Oh, congratulations. Please give her a hand.
You're welcome to take the mic and tell us what you did.
Tell us.
I want to hear what.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Rinki Mudise from Shout It Now. I graduated with Executive Development Program yesterday, which was offered by National School of Government from the University of Pretoria. Thank you so much.
So congratulations. And thank you very much. Justice.
I did not graduate.
But you did contribute it out.
So I think that does it.
Thank you so much. Then we're getting the best of doing the vote of thanks.
May I give you one?
Yeah.
But we need to, we need to give you one.
Get it at home though.
You got
Yeah,
it?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Let me see us giving you.
We need to take
building here. We're building.
We need to take photographs and we have to ask the NSM and the DSD and the board and the secretariat staff and the exec and the rest.
Yes. I think we should do the thank you lunch. Can we please have the board and the secretariat up so we can have a group photograph? We didn't do so well with that one last night. And everybody encourage the people at your table who are on the board or on the secretariat to move to the stage because it's them, they between you and your lunch. Thank you very much for your patience and for accommodating the changes in the program today.
I think they left. You can't. Somebody else. Tabang, can you move this down for us, please?
Are any of these mine? Yes.
Maybe board first, then the, yeah.
But your banner is not here, no? And Rose. Please, Rose.